public decipher what's actually going on. It is unacceptable that we have a government that operates in this opaque, black box kind of environment where no one understands really what's happening. It takes me, and I'm a finance guy, it takes me a great deal of time to just go through the budget and understand line by line what's going on. And I have to ask people. There are people that are really, really talented that have been doing this for years, and I still have to go and ask them, what in the world is this? Why is this happening this way? And then the second the first city council happens, they rearrange it just like that. So it's really a meaningless document. It's like when we lost Community Crossings grant, that $1 million grant. That money's going to get made up. We're just going to move it around on the ledger somewhere. And we'll never know. It'll just get done. So we have to have an accountability. There needs to be an accountability group that is the emergency brake on everything that happens for the sake of the citizens and the voters of the city, the state, or the country. That's really what needs to happen. Mm-hmm. In every business I've ever operated, there are auditors. They're effectively the auditors of the government process. And I know we send off our books to the state to be audited periodically, but that just simply says this column and this column add up to this. It's not saying whether it's right or wrong. It's just saying, yeah, the math works. That's not balanced. That's not looking for efficiencies or inefficiencies. That's just saying the math works. You sent the money where you said you sent the money. That's it. It's not looking at contracts. It's not looking at efficiency. It's not looking at overspend. It's not looking at any of those things. It just says, yeah, that money went there. The end. That's where we need to come through with some basic common sense and say, okay, we can't do that in our personal budgets. We have to sit down and think, are we overspending on whatever it is we're overspending on? If so, how do we correct that as fast as possible? And the city's never done that, ever.
I don't understand how that happens. And no offense to anyone on any of the councils, city, county, or other counties. I've had people, as I'm belly aching and complaining about things like, go get engaged, go to the city council meetings. I'm like, I know what happens there. Nothing happens if that someone comes up to the mic, says something, that information goes nowhere. So all you're really, I believe, I've never seen any kind of action happen from any of the things I've paid attention to. And maybe that's not looking at it right, but I don't have time to go down there and sit through every city council meeting or county council meeting. And
you're hitting upon it right there.
Yeah.
You're hitting upon
the smartest people that should be there can't be there because they're out actually doing things.
You're 100% right. And that's the issue. We are relying on people who have no business sense whatsoever or experience in a lot of ways to do our business for us. If you have a group of people, say a board of directors, those board of directors for any given business are there for very specific purposes, filling very specific roles. They do things. That's not the way it is in city council. We have people doing things and they've never done these things ever. If you ask them about how the budget works, they cannot tell you. They get told. They cannot tell you how this works. And it's not their fault. It's just the way it is. They move money from here to here. Is it possible? Yes. Do it. And that's it. That's the end. We need to get better. They need to be able to explain to me or you or any citizen of Evansville, why'd you move that money? Where'd that money come from? How did you get that money? Is it being replenished? Did you have to raise new taxes to accomplish this? Where did the money come from? It's a simple sources and uses conversation. And we're not very good at it.
And who are they? I mean, so, I always wonder about, transparency and accountability, obviously, but transitioning from one administration to the next administration without having a really robust tool. And, I'm looking at the large language models and AI, what AI can do. Mm-hmm. And the reason I came up with the UTD local, the Unite the Divided local part of this podcast, is to have conversations with people who either have power now, have an understanding of how the framework of the city works, and or people that want to be involved in future mayors, future city council, county council, you name it. Because why wouldn't we want to have conversations with them and get their ideas and their positions on the core elements of what most people in the city of Evansville think are important? Because what I find we hear is talking points and pictures of, hey, look, I cut this ribbon. Woohoo! Look how much good work I'm doing. No one cares about that. No. It's a photo op. So tell me where the rubber hits the road. Like who? I've been wondering this, and I've been doing some digging, but trying to figure out who actually runs the city. from one to the next, it seems like there's core money and decision makers that are kind of sitting above even the mayor's office. And I just always have wondered, because it's that way in the government, and
Sure.
in any government, you've got
yeah.
the bureaucrats that never leave. You got so built into that cake, as it were, there's people in there that are actually making one administration flow into the next, so nothing falls apart.
I think that's a complicated question. It's a great question. So I think there are it's a vast machine at City Hall that keeps the city going, that understands in their very specific silos what's going on and how things operate. And it's just become a bigger and bigger and bigger machine. No one ever comes along and says, how do we make this more efficient? How do we get better at whatever it is we're doing? That never happens. It just becomes bigger and bigger and bigger. The monster keeps feeding itself. So from one administration to the next, and we did come out of administration that had well over a decade and a half of power within the City Hall. So we had a massive machine just sitting there chugging along, doing the business of the city. And when that transition, not a lot of people changed. Some heads of departments changed and some things moved around. But for the most part, that just continued right along just as it has always been. And that, I think, is the machine you're looking for. That's the continuity that you're looking for. And we don't do a very good job of asking, why are we doing this thing? Well, we've always done it this way. Why have we always done it this way?
I understand we need some continuity. I mean, I'm not 100%. For coming in and washing everyone out of the system every time a new mayor comes into office. I mean, that would be chaotic and impossible. But at the same time, you've got all these people in silos, and you said it. You stepped me right into it. They're sitting in silos. They don't talk to someone in another silo about what's going on over in one. So it's like, how is there ever really any good transparency, accountability, or communication between anyone? I can't see it.
It's very hard. It's very, very hard to in a business, in a well-oiled machine, a business that is operating and making millions, if not tens of millions, if not multiples of that. It is hard to get that level of communication and cohesiveness and alignment within a for-profit business that depends on communication every single day to make those monies. In the government, it's almost the exact opposite. You find that people get very siloed and very protective of their own little organization. And there's a lot of pride of ownership that you want to exist. But you should never be afraid of a question. You should never, ever be afraid of figuring out there's a better way to do a thing. We talk about this all the time. And I love the conversations that happen in this room because of it. But technology leaps forward by the day now. Oh, yeah. It is leaping forward literally by the day.
At a scary level. I've got clips to prove it later.
Oh, 100%. I mean, sometimes it's very, very concerning, but it's coming forward so fast. What technologies in this space are we leveraging to make our government better? I would venture to say none. We're not leveraging that technology here. We
if they were, they're not showing it off very well, and that seems kind of silly.
And in this current environment, they like to show things off. If they're doing it at all well, they show it off. So I would be much more excited to see transparency, accountability, real-time, real-world metrics in motion. Where are we on these projects? Where are we on this budget? Show us what each budget line item. Complex businesses can do it. I've done it myself. First thing you do when you buy a business, you find out where the waste is and you get rid of it. Immediately, you hire people in to do that work.
The conspiracy theorist in me, who I'm very good at it.
Do you need me to go get the tinfoil?
Yeah, no, I don't think I need it anymore.
That's true.
People are opaque and don't want to talk for a reason. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it could be out of just general anxiety of
or
public speaking
or something.
Yes, sure. You don't want to come in and say the wrong thing and get in trouble from the person above you that is in control of your paycheck. Mm-hmm. I mean, me and Doc Roy talked about golden handcuffs and golden duct tape all the time. I fully understand the concept, and I don't. It doesn't concern me that people feel that way. It doesn't concern me because I know how the real world works in that capacity. But at the same time, we are living in a world where I think anyone at any level of any bureaucracy needs to be held to some account. And the people of Evansville pay their bills and pay their income and and everything that they do deserve that, especially when we're getting asked to pay more and more taxes at all levels. They're losing money or not getting money because they can't, dot an I or cross a T and
sign a page.
Yeah. I mean, it's like there's so many silly things that happen, and it just, I have to believe that if there was communication going on, we were using technology as it can be used, stuff like your name not getting signed would never happen.
Mm-hmm. The checks and balances would exist that would protect you from that type of error, and that would be the hope, right? So my issue is, and I say this cautiously because I want to give people grace. Everyone can make mistakes, but we have a machine that is designed through that continuity we just spoke of to protect us from singular mistakes in this way. A singular person can make mistakes, but can an entire administration make $1 million mistake? I'd like to think that not possible, but we've just seen it is. If we're making mistakes at that level, what mistakes are we not seeing? That is instantly what that creates in your mind. Not saying that there are, just that's immediately the thought that crosses my mind. That's where my mind goes. When I look at a business, if you made this kind of a mistake, what other mistakes are sitting there that we just haven't found yet? So it doesn't feel like there's a lot of accountability. It doesn't feel like there's a lot of transparency. In fact, you'll notice that we haven't heard anything about this. There's been no response.
It doesn't feel like there's a desire to have any of it. It doesn't.
No.
It's not just that there's none because they don't know how to do it. There's intentionally not doing it.
Yeah, I think that's probably accurate.
Well, I mean, that happened again. I've already said this and bemoaned it many times, but I asked before the current mayor got elected to sit down and have a conversation. Didn't have to be a podcast, but as a voter and as somebody that pays attention, someone that's fairly, I don't want to say well connected because I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but I know a lot of people, and I know how So why wouldn't you just have a conversation and kind of tell me what your plan is? It seems like a logical thing to do. So all I wanted to do is give her and the other people that were running for mayor a platform, all of them a platform, to come in and I'm going to have a list of 10 questions that you're not going to get to pre-select, but everybody's going to agree to answer the questions. And I'll give you a little bit of time to know what those questions are. Not going to be any gotchas. It's just questions that I feel are super important to the future of Evansville. 100%. A lot of it, you just started off this podcast with accountability, transparency. What are we going to do with technology? Me and Travis talk about runaway AI and how that's going to disrupt things locally in our schools, for jobs, for all these things. And it just seems like no one's taking any of it seriously. Like I can't get anyone to have a serious conversation about what it's going to do.
It may simply be because they don't know. And
that's fine.
No one truly knows.
No one truly knows.
They're afraid to actually say, I don't know.
Oh, fair enough. Okay.
I think there's a legitimate concern. If you asked me, there's a million questions you could ask me where I would just simply have to look at you and say, you know what, Chad, I don't know yet.
I know somebody that should know.
Find out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll find out.
Find out.
It's a good question.
That's it. I hadn't thought of that. We're figuring it out.
It's a blind spot now.
Yeah.
It's not going to be blind because I'm going to address it.
Correct. I think people look at the government in a very weird way, and I think we bear a little responsibility in that. We assume that these people are going to take care of us. Do you remember? And
don't use we. What? Don't use we when you say that.
Listen to your group.
Don't put words in my mouth, sir.
Do you remember?
Got a mouse in your pocket
when you were right?
Sorry.
Do you remember when you were a kid and you thought your parents just knew everything, like every single thing? You just assumed they're infallible.
Yeah.
My 7-year-old daughter currently thinks that of me.
When did that change? You know the moment. I remember the moment completely when that changed. It was
for you personally.
For me personally,
okay.
It was. I was listening to my dad say something, and I looked at him. I knew he was completely wrong, and I then made the point of proving him completely wrong.
As a child, you must.
Oh, I was in my 20s or something, and I knew that this had not happened at this particular time in history of some.
Did it have to do with Santa Claus? Because that was supposed to be last week's podcast.
Okay,
No, I was in my 20s, probably.
Yeah, I mean,
it had something to do with the Roman Empire. I was a history buff,
a
guy. So went back and looked at this and got a great deal of satisfaction proving him wrong. But in that moment, it shattered the illusion in my mind that all-knowing. Right. That's what the government is for a lot of people. They elect people that they believe in, that they are relinquishing the responsibility and giving them authority over them to make decisions on their behalf, and then not thinking about it again. Period. They don't want to think about it because it takes time. It takes a lot of effort for everything that I post, for anything, the conversations that we have. I have no idea a lot of times what you're going to ask me. So I just try and research lots of current topics and try and have thoughts on a lot of different things. But if I'm writing something, or if I'm talking to somebody, or if I'm in an interview about some specific topic, I will do hours and hours and hours of research on those things before I ever write or say a thing. We are not critically thinking anymore because we've given that position up. A lot of times the populace, the voters, have given that away. And we are assuming that these people, just because they're in office, know better than we do. And they don't. Mm-hmm. There is absolutely no chance that they know. They're being educated by the machine. The machine says, oh, you can't do this. This is how the rules work. This is how you actually get this done. This is how you move money around. This is how you get money. This is where the sources and uses of this cash are. And I think there are people who understand the system and how to work the system and how to utilize the system to the greatest advantage of the people that elected them. And I think there are people who use the system very differently. It's somewhere in the balance of that, on that scale, that we find the politicians that are in leadership above us right now.
Well, and I think you asked the question, when did I first, know that something wasn't right? I'm an OG as far as how long I've questioned hypocrisy and all the things that are going on. So I can't even think of the day, but what I think has happened, especially over the last decade, and specifically the spotlight of COVID, is how the public narrative was forced basically down our throat, how everyone could spot the lies and people were being punished for telling the truth in rapid succession.
Oh, yeah.
Deplatformed, debanked, everything, and it's all because they blamed it on the excuse was, well, Trump is a threat to the country and going to start World War III, and
misinformation.
we have to censor him, so we got to censor everyone that talks like him. That all evolved, and I think a massive amount of people opened their eyes for the first time, truly, and still a lot of them don't talk about it. But as you and I have talked about a couple times, people come up to me in quiet and on the side and say, "Hey, man, just keep talking while you're talking. I can't talk about it in public." So people hear it and they know it, and all we are doing a lot of times is just kind of
bringing awareness,
enforcing their what they already know. But at the end of the day, I think the goal should be, what are we going to do with that knowledge that things aren't right? I mean, institutions are failing all around us. Education, how long has education been bad? I mean, when did we start not teaching our kids about common sense and the ability to debate and to debate either side of an issue that you agree with or you don't agree with? That's kind of the first leg of
right.
what I'm talking about.
You're 100% right.
My cliff notes here that we're going to get into some clips of that. So, to me, everything starts with education. My dream and goal with this podcast was to basically create an anti-tyranny movement, and it's moving. It's not moving as fast as I'd hoped, but it is moving, and people grasp it. Ultimately, I always thought that I would come back around to my education degree and want to kind of revitalize the education system, because honestly, where we are, what's coming down the pipeline towards our families, towards our kids, is a vast unknown. And me and Travis can have nuanced conversations, agree and disagree on which way it's going to go, and neither one of us know we're right or not. We believe we're right. We have our gut feelings. I think I'm right every time until I'm not, and that's why Travis has the "I was wrong" shirt back there behind him, because you got to be proud to say I was wrong on things. So you got to do that quick.
Yeah.
So I trusted more people that got things screwed up during COVID. The doctors, people that were formerly on the left that got pushed to the right, who thought that everything was hunky dory in the beginning, and then the quicker you could admit I was wrong about that, now we have to change. That takes courage, it takes intelligence, it takes fortitude, and those are the people that I put on my dream team of anti-tyranny in all capacity. And so it doesn't mean they're going to get it right the next time, but as soon as the signal hits them and they know it's not right, they're going to be, whoa, something's not right.
That's that piece that we realize that they're fallible, just like the rest of us. We are all fallible. We all make mistakes.
We're all human.
And that's what that's our problem.
Bring that mic out to you a little bit. Just pull it out. Yeah, there you go.
That's our problem. We've turned politics into the weirdest religion I've ever seen. If you are this, then you're that. And if you're not this, then you most certainly are that. And if you question any of it, you're outside the circle of whatever.
That's not approved narrative, sir.
That's not approved. Don't talk about it.
Yeah.
You don't get to have that conversation.
Yep.
You're either going to be labeled some horrific name of some sort. They're going to try and label you as something that is socially unacceptable just simply for starting to ask questions. It is right to question elected authority. That is the job.
It's your duty
of an electorate.
Mm-hmm.
That's how we make decisions. And when we start getting told we can't pose those questions, we can't make those assumptions and ask them to be validated, we can't test what's happening in the government, stress test it for fact, for transparency, for benefit to the public, that is a huge, huge problem. And we've got to get back to the place where, what did you just say? Intelligent discourse, questions, critical thinking, constantly looking for the better answer. And we've forgotten it. We've just forgotten it. And that's a sad situation. And it's happened over the span of time where they've made it or tried to make it socially unacceptable to question the authority that's been put over you. And it's just not acceptable. And I think that's the issue with people who put these people, elect them and put them into these places. We've stopped electing people based on merit and what their capabilities are, and more on what, whatever identity they happen to be. Well, and this is on both sides. I'm not picking on one particular side or the other. I'm simply saying we've forgotten what merit actually looks like, and we now want whatever version most appeals to us, and our core political religion now.
Well, and the real
it doesn't matter if they have any level of qualification.
The real problem that most people don't even see coming down the pipeline, either they don't care or they just haven't put the dots together. Me and Noah talked about Nick Fuentes, and Nick, Nick has said some far out there things, and I disagree with him on a lot of things, but he has captivated the minds and the ears of millions and millions of kids and young people who have felt disenchanted with what's going on in the world. So you have this huge population of people that are coming up to be voters. They're going to be voting very soon. They're going to either be in college or thinking about going to college. They no longer know whether that's the right thing to do because of AI disruption. There's confusion. They've been told their entire lives, if you happen to be a young white kid in the world today, that you have you're a white supremacist, or you're entitled, whatever the words that they use that nobody really understands, but you can't talk about it. You can't call them out on it because the left. I'm not just attacking Democrats. The left had figured out a way how to use social construct and calling someone a Trumper, calling someone this, and as soon as they have done it so well and slammed it into our heads that as soon as someone calls you racist, fascist, you name the word, it just silences. It creates a vacuum. So the Nick Fuentes of the world are rising up and say, you're not going to cancel me. And they did cancel him. They debanked him. They did all these things. And every time he comes back stronger and stronger. That should tell people that maybe he's not right on everything, but maybe you should engage with his freaking audience and you should hear what they're concerned about, because he is preaching. He's preaching to a choir. And maybe the choir's misguided, but maybe they're just tired of being told they're wrong all the time and they don't have a place in the world. I mean, that's his audience.
That is exactly it.
You're stupid not to engage with those people, not only from a voting perspective and to do what's right, but you're basically creating a future backlash that is, you're creating the thing that you're trying to stop from happening by silencing them in the first place. You're actually putting it on fast forward.
This is how Trump won. This is
Absolutely.
exactly how he
Populist,
won.
yes.
He came through and said, I've got a tent and a place for everyone. I don't care what you look like. I don't care who you are. I don't care how you voted in the past. I don't care what you believe. I don't care what your sexual preference is. I have a place for you. You don't have to be this to be smart. You don't have to be this to be in the cool kids club. we are all the cool kids club, and we reject everything they're saying. And because he did that, he had a groundswell of population of popularity. Yeah. He had all of these people. This guy hung around. He was hanging out of a garbage truck. He's hanging out of a McDonald's window.
Yeah.
He's a billionaire. This man understands that we are in the majority, we are disenfranchised. The majority of us are suffering a severe disenfranchisement from our political process. We're not really being represented, and we are rebelling against the very idea of this social elite class. And a billionaire, a New York billionaire, has figured this out ahead of everybody else, and that's why he won. He won because he's rebelling against them, and we don't like them either.
Yeah, he does a lot of things I don't like, but what I will say, his entire first term, leading up to him winning in 2016, if he only achieved one thing, it was basically starting to put the final nail in the coffin of the mainstream media, and
oh, they're hating for it.
Well, yeah, of course.
Did you see the mass exodus? I think it was today, where the press was turning in their passes and everything. Did you see that? There's a video, a few videos out there where there's a new there was a new press something that the press had to sign, and it all had to do with only putting out information if the White House says that you can. But it was about like military. It was sensitive things. Sure. It was about they wanted to kind of have a thumb on the sensitive stuff.
Well, with AI and large language models, I mean, there's going to be a lot of stuff being discovered that probably it wouldn't be safe.
Anyway, a lot of press passes were turned in, and a lot of people walked out.
Okay,
yeah,
there's plenty of people.
Oh, I mean, it needed to happen. I think I think it'll be for the best. But I was just curious.
Well, we're kind of bouncing all over the place here. No, but I'm going to bounce over. We're bouncing around, but you hit something on the head that I'm going to call right back. You sent the clip to me, and I talked about it. But the Nick Shirley story with the Minnesota corruption.
That's incredible.
A 23-year-old YouTuber does the job that no journalist has been able to do for how long? Like, that just calls out how bad the media is.
I challenge it. It's not that they weren't unable to do. It's they chose not to do.
Well, I don't even know who they are. That's the the conspiracy theorist to me, is like somebody's pulling those strings.
The mass media machine has no desire to challenge establishment, oftentimes left-leaning policies like that. He has uncovered a multi-billion-dollar fraud that undermines everything that the media has been saying for the last 10 years. Every single thing they've been saying. It is a real world working class example of our tax dollars being stolen knowingly, and that there are people in the government operating at the state level and possibly beyond that knew about it. They're being enriched, and it's going to become more and more, or I should say, let me back up. The potential of them being enriched is very real. And so they're going to wind up going through this massive investigation, looking through all of these financial records. And the one thing that we all know is money doesn't lie. It has no emotion, it does not care, and it is a breadcrumb back to the truth 100% of the time. And when they start peeling this back, it's going to get much, much uglier before it gets better.
Oh, do you remember the Doge memo lines? There were no memos. There was no information where money was going and everything. Like, that was crazy. By the way, it was their Pentagon Post, not White House. It was journalists at the Pentagon. I'm sorry.
Okay, well, see, that
makes sense.
That's one of those slippery slopes. Like, you do have to kind of control the narrative a little bit there, I think.
Well, if there's sensitive, I agree. So
a little bit.
But if there's sensitive information sitting there where someone's life is in danger because they happen to run across some operational intel that they should not have, right, we shouldn't be putting our own people's lives in danger.
Absolutely.
I get that. I totally understand that.
This is we could have a 3-hour discussion just on this one topic. And we've bounced around. Well, if not, I don't know of very many people that don't know about the Nick Shirley.
It's impressive.
The incident. Travis shared this clip with me earlier. I wasn't going to bring it on because I think everyone knows about it. I mean, I think it was within 24 hours he had something like 100 million views to the video on YouTube or on Twitter. Mm-hmm. And this is the thing you sent me was on Facebook. He's got this one only has 42,000 likes. The YouTube video had, when I looked at it, was millions. So it's the story has legs, and so like again, we're bouncing all over the place, but this is going to circle right back around to we need to be better at educating our kids to think critically, to challenge authority, to if you see something wrong, point it out. It's the same, it's the same thing that's happening over and over again, and his life is in risk. I mean, he's got Brandon Tatum that giving him private security because the Somalis people are trying to kill him because of what he's saying.
And there's a difference between questioning authority and respecting it. If people know that I'm a police officer, that I work at a Rockport. If I pull somebody over or if I'm detaining someone, they can ask me all the questions that they want, and I'm happy to answer them. Yes, you are being detained. Yes, I need this, and this information from you. I'm transparent. I'm not telling them, well, I'll tell you why I've got you detained for later, at a later time of day. No, I'm going to tell you every step of the way. But I expect in reciprocity then to respect my authority. There's a totally different give and take here. You can challenge that. You can ask for questions. You can search for transparency. You can ask for accountability, because if I'm pulling you over and I don't tell you everything that I'm doing and I'm opaque about things, and I may or may not be, you may or may not feel safe. That's not okay.
That's where my wife comes in.
That right? Yeah, exactly. She
Joe. No,
I'm not tangling with her. No,
I'm just a traveler right now.
Yeah,
man.
I'm traveling.
No, I'm just yeah.
I'm just traveling.
There's no business happening here.
No, just don't worry. But,
have you ever come across a sovereign?
Oh yes.
Have you?
Yeah. There's
some of them are really, really intelligent. And I'm like,
a lot of them are intelligent. Wow. I have learned to never underestimate a person.
Yeah.
Because you never know who they are, what their intentions are. You just have to just listen. I enjoy listening to people and understanding their perspective. And a lot of times it is educational to me. I used to, when I was younger, be subject to a lot of preconceived notions.
Yeah.
Those are gone. Those have been gone for decades, because people are unique. We have all been blessed with different perspectives and lenses in which we view the life that we live. It's not for me to judge somebody. It's for me to be cautious of people, or for me to enjoy being in various people's company, or me want to help people do one thing or another and them help me. But to have preconceptions and judgments around people, that doesn't do anybody any good. So I love fun conversations like that. It's super fun to hear how people think. But when you're looking at fraud, which is really a fun way of saying theft, our monies are being stolen from us. That's why people have millions of views. That's why people can't get enough of the story, because people are stealing from us. And the elected leaders that we had in power, that we put there, we gave them this responsibility. It's like what we were talking about earlier. They've been allowing this fraud to continue and been potentially enriched by it. There's lots of these little ancillary details that are coming out. People's, in the Somali issue in particular, lots of little people involved in this that are it appears have been benefiting from this. So if the machine has been going,
are you aware that once a Somali has been in the country for over 10 years, over 75% of them use one or more government services still. Mm-hmm. So still on public food stamps mm-hmm. or whatever they're called in each state, housing, obviously medical, all these things. So I have questions as to why they're even brought.
Like, are they refugee status or are they actually citizens?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
This is something that's very interesting because I think we're going to start finding these answers out really quick. And I don't think anybody right now, it's just like one of those new issues that crop up. We don't know yet. Mm-hmm. This is what the investigation is going to come out with. We do know there's been an enormous amount of fraud to the tune of well over $1 billion. And probably that's going to be insignificant. That's going to be
just one. That's just one instance of it.
It is.
And they're buying votes is really what they're doing, because the Somalis, they have to vote for the same the people to keep getting the benefits. I mean, so
there's a lot of things that are happening here, and I think the more we delve into it, the more the FBI looks into it, the more the Department of Justice looks into it, the more independent people like Shirley look into it. We're going to start discovering there's a lot of unsavory things happening, and this is one of the healthiest things that have happened in our country in a very long time.
Sure,
because this guy showed up and started asking questions, and it really has shaken a bunch of people up.
So I've got a question for you. Mm-hmm. we can watch this clip or not. Again, I don't know if it's really relevant, but this guy, he's riding around in the car. I think it's his grandfather, I think, that's in the car with him. I don't know if that's true or not. But he's basically walking up to all these different daycare centers, autism centers, and whatever, and they're receiving, they're saying they have 80 kids or 100 kids in each of these buildings, and they're getting X amount of dollars per kid, $1.5 million a year in this daycare facility, $2 million a year in this daycare facility. This is a huge story. So I guess my question is, as someone myself who's been interested in rooting out corruption at all levels, it's really a lot more difficult to think about how to, I don't want to say profit from it, but you still have to pay the bills. Like, I need to pay the mortgage as well as my wife. I need to help with things around the house. So Nick Shirley was able to grab a hold of a national story as a independent journalist and catch the tiger by its tail. Of course, he's going to get hundreds of millions of things. If I go out into the streets of Evansville and start doing these things, we're kind of captured with the city of Evansville. I mean, it's a smaller scale. The money is not going to be as big and crazy. So, like, how do I want to inspire kids to do this, but we also need to find a way to have them doing it without being shock jockeys, like the original, the OG journalism. Like, why do you become a journalist? Well, when you become a journalist, at first it was to create neutral news and seek truth. Then all the journalists worked for all these different news organizations, and the news organizations all end up coming down to 7 people owning everything, and the narratives were trapped and controlled. Couldn't see.
That's the difference. Right there, it's not a story anymore. It's not news. It's a narrative. They're creating a story for you to digest with a perspective they want you to assimilate.
My question is, and my goal, and you might not know, this is kind of blindsiding you, is like, I'm trying to figure out how to make it where it's not profitable, because it's not going to be safe. Like, you start asking questions of the wrong people, and there's going to be some angry people, even locally.
Yeah,
I mean,
100%.
I know there's ears and eyes on things I say all the time. I'm finding it out more and more every day.
I don't like sitting out in front of this window every day that we do a podcast, but hey, here we are.
But here we are.
I think you're safe, Travis. You're the neutral observer here.
Oh, okay.
So I, anyway, I as we start going down this rabbit hole, I think an accountability tool at the government level, at the city level, would probably make the need for what he's doing, kind of the guerrilla journalism on the street, going up and I mean, when you see the numbers and you can go to the place, the problem is we don't know where the numbers are. We don't know how the numbers are crossing and where they're coming from and where they're going. As soon as you have that, and then you can say, well, that's strange. Why would this NGO or why would this non-for-profit be funneling money to this particular organization? Why do we have 10,000 Haitians here? No one knows. You're going to get into affordability and housing, a housing crisis. Do we have a housing crisis, or we just have a bunch of people that we've kicked out so we can put different people in that we've ushered in here? I mean, there's so many nuances here that
so there's a lot of different questions you asked.
I know.
You said a lot of things.
This is what I do.
Words.
I didn't see you writing anything down, Joe.
This is why I love this. So the first question I heard you ask is, how do we figure out where to start, and how does that get monetized, basically? So I think the first to answer that is you go to where you're not getting any more answers. You start asking a bunch of questions, line by line in the budget. Where's this? Where's this? Where's this? Where's this? And when you stop getting answers on a particular subject, that's when you dive into that particular subject. I know that one of the things that we're talking about is the Evansville Housing Authority. We recently had a big uptick in evictions, and they're getting no answers about this whatsoever. So when you have things like that crop up, it demands answers. So then you start probing into that, start looking at that, and it may be 100% legitimate, and it probably is, but there's no transparency, which demands answers. And then you start to become curious and inquisitive and start probing around the edges and figuring out what's actually going on. So I think that would be a way to figure it out. It's actually a military tactic where you start shooting big guns until you start getting shots fired back. And that's where you know where the enemy is.
There you go.
That's an old tactic. An old Marine told me that. I thought it was really funny. But the other piece, I think the other question that you asked is, why don't we have transparency? Why don't we have any metrics around what's going on in these places. I think,
or a public view of the monies that are moving in our
and they would
government,
say,
you know?
And they would say, go to city council and they'll tell you. Well, ask the city councilors, and they can't tell you. So we need something that's digestible in a very real way that anyone can understand and look at. If I look at this board right here, I'm going to say, I understand what's going on here because it's written out. There's a timeline and there's spend and there's all of these metrics here. That's called a key performance indicator. There should be a key performance indicator on every single contract that the city has, period. And if there isn't, and it can't be, then we need to figure out why there can't be. There's nothing so secret that's happening in the city government that we can't have total visibility into it. It just does not exist. So the second that we start getting pushback, that's the place we start to probe. And that's what I would tell anybody. I get, and I'm sure you get the same thing. Once you start writing and you start having conversation with people start sending you lots of information that you never even expected. We had a conversation about this. We both wound up getting some weird esoteric information. You probed through it and came up with answers. That's how actual journalism is done.
Well, I get a lot of stuff myself from whistleblowers.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
You know, so that's really helpful, and I appreciate every single person that does it. I try to respect them and
it takes
respect
a lot of bravery
their privacy.
to do it.
Oh my gosh,
it takes a lot of bravery to do it.
Yeah, way more brave than me.
Oh yeah, because people they're gonna get a lot of pushback and kickback, and there's a sanctity around the confidentiality around those people, which is they have to have a lot of trust in you as a person to do that, which I think that should be applauded as well. But
you were talking about the old ways of news organizations. I mean, that's where they kind of protected their source, you know? I mean, people knew who they could trust to talk to, who wouldn't rat them out, who wouldn't say, oh yeah, Joe down the street, he's the one that told me that, you know, whatever it might be.
Yeah. I mean, it's totally acceptable that we don't have a society where people feel like they can have those conversations. We put whistleblowing laws in place to protect these people. And we don't. And I can tell you right now, I've got emails and text messages and all these things that says, I can't comment on your post, or I can't comment in the public space about how this is, but you're on the right track. Keep going, keep doing,
You get the same things I do.
100%. Yeah. And it's only because these people are the people working in the government, the people involved in this work are so desperate to do good work, but they feel very suppressed. And that's where we start investigating. And that's where, and so I'm not an investigator. I will write pieces. I will look into things because something happens. And it is generally things that get brought to me. Help me figure this out. Help raise some awareness so that more people get eyes on this. And so there's more conversation around this and we can actually get something done on it. That's how mine works. Yours is a little different because they want you to investigate. They know this is part of the nature of what you do. And I'm very thankful for it. I'm very, very thankful that there's a voice here for these people. And I frankly send people to you. Talk to Chad, and Chad is going to protect you, and Chad will listen to you. But there's not a whole lot of that going on. And I think this is a great outlet for that. I think that more people need to understand that that's what you're doing, and that you do respect the sanctity of that confidentiality, and you are very diligent before putting stuff out. How many rumors have you gotten in the last week? I know I've gotten at least five, like juicy, crazy.
Yeah, when I threw that one juicy nugget out about the big conspiracy, all I was trying to do was flesh out the rabbit.
Yeah, 100%.
And it worked.
Yeah. Every time.
And I got the answers that I expected, and I got the non-answers that I expected.
Correct.
And so, you know, a lot goes with that. But I'm still in the middle of doing the diligence for that because I'm not going to say anything until I have
100%. You're not satisfied yet.
Precise numbers. And I've tried to ask some other citizen journalists to get involved in this, people who already are familiar with doing freedom of information stuff. I feel like it's a little bit of a distraction to me, but I've never done it before, so I feel like I need to go through and do it.
It's a good learning
the official way.
So I think those are the answers that I would pose. If someone's looking to do investigative journalism, which I think that's an amazing thing, if you inspire people to go to investigative journalism and have them here on your podcast to talk about and discover what they've come up with, that is a really awesome thing. So probe around the edges, find out where you're getting gunfire back, and then concentrate on that. Then, of course, around accountability, how do we maintain accountability? It's by putting information out.
Yeah.
Freely disseminate information about the wins and the losses and everything in between, because the public is not going to castigate you for making a mistake or for a project overrun or for something that's not working correctly. They're going to castigate you and be upset when you do nothing about it. That's the difference. In business, we make mistakes all the time. All the time. We just fix them. And we have a responsibility to shareholders to tell them when we make these mistakes. Here's how I accidentally spent your money incorrectly. By the way, I'm going to earn you 5-fold back because I fixed it.
Well, this tool that I feel like we're creating out of thin air here, that there is no official plan, basically to me is kind of like a voting by topic type of thing. So if we discover here's the line items of the budget of the city, here's where money's coming, here's where money's going, here's what is actually happening, then we have, whoever's going to run for mayor next or whoever's going to run for whatever position next here's everything that's out there that you're going to be held accountable to. And everyone, like if I created the perfect system, it would be every voter in the city of Evansville would have a blockchain protected user name that they would get one vote up and down on each particular thing, or they could comment if they see something that they don't like, and then it goes into like a bigger database, and that creates questions for the administrators, the people that are heads of these departments, all these different things. And so it gives you, we often complain that we need term limits for certain things and we need more accountability. But again, if you want to become mayor, you want to become whatever. And I'm not saying I'm going to be the one that's talking to everybody. We need a place where everybody is, if you want to be a mayor, you want to be whatever, you need to go through this process of sitting down, answering these questions, giving us where you are on these particular topics, because we're going to hold you accountable to what you say now. And we're not saying that once you get in that you're not going to see some things you didn't know were there and have to pivot or say I was wrong or change your tone. But then that brings out the information that people don't know is there. That's going to flesh out the stuff.
If we had this tool, every candidate would never have an excuse for saying, well, I didn't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Did you not look at the tool? It's right here. Every voter knows this. And you're running for office, you've just shown how unqualified you are because you haven't even bothered to look at the tool. That's what that kind of information does. There's no more, well, they got stuck with it. I am so tired. And frankly getting a little disgusted by this sad, overused, pathetic excuse card of, well, it's always been this way, and they just walked into it. They didn't know it was here. Why the hell not? Why the hell not? And if you didn't know, somehow, some random thing happened, why aren't you capable of fixing this in real time? That's my biggest challenge. It's always been this way. Or they didn't know it happened. Or they've only been in office for 2 years or 1 year or whatever. When you are running for office, the whole purpose of running is to listen to every single voter that you can talk to. It's not so that you hand them a piece of literature and says, hey, I'm so-and-so, I'm running for whatever the office is, vote for me. It's, Chad, tell me what your concerns are. Every single door, anyone who's listening to this will tell you this is exactly how this conversation went. I'd knock on your door when I was running for city council in the third ward and say, Chad, tell me about you. What's important to you? What's the city doing right? What's the city doing wrong? Tell me about your family. What do you do? How long have you been here? I wanted to know you. Not that you need to.
You'd have made a big mistake walking up to my door, buddy.
Oh, yeah. I've been here for days. I'd have been here for days. But it created a dialogue where I learned a ton of things. I got a ton of perspective, and a lot of times it helped alter my perception of the direction I would go if I had been elected city council. In my next elected role, which I assume I will run for something, my next elected role, I'll be doing the exact same thing because I want to understand what the people I represent, what their concerns are, where the pain points are, what they love, what they hate, what they need, what they want. I want all of those things, and I want to that's my win. When I have the ability to help them achieve those things or create an environment where those things are possible, that's my win. And I want them to hold me accountable to those things. I will put them big as life. These are the things. These are the things. These are the things. This is what we're doing. And if I don't accomplish those things, I'm going to provide a really, really good set of reasons why it didn't happen. I will never commit myself to something that I don't believe can get accomplished.
Well, and I'll just tell you, it goes right back to, the doctors during COVID that quickly said I was wrong about this and started warning people.
Yes.
That's where I will tell you that if you go into it saying, I don't have all the answers, I have some ideas, I have a hypothesis of how it might work or what I might do to fix it, the more rapidly that you can just come out and in some way, and this goes right against PR and public, like the marketing that I've been in, like you want to protect your image and whatever. At the end of the day, running for office and being a politician didn't used to be an end goal for life. It was something that you did out of a patriot duty because you saw things that were going wrong and you're like, I'm not putting up with it anymore. I'm going to go fix it.
Or I have a particular skill set that can help in this moment.
Yeah, it's not supposed to be a stair step to the next powerful thing. So you got to grease the wheels and pat on the backs of people that you know are doing untoward things. And that's where I kind of feel like we're at with people that are getting placed in certain positions. And there's all kinds of different things that you and I know that I don't know if it's even intelligent to get into that today. But I mean, I really do believe people are hand selected and put into things because they won't ask the questions that no one wants them to ask. That's where I would never be good at politics because I'm going to ask every single question.
Or you'd be great in them because you're going to ask if you found the right role.
No, maybe. I mean, maybe. But I mean, I did grow up really intrigued by it. I mean, I was enamored by Bill Clinton. Back in the day, he was a fantastic orator.
I've watched him. I've studied him. So I don't agree with a lot of his politics. Although today he'd be a Republican.
Yeah.
I mean, he would be a Republican.
Except for NAFTA. I'd burn
Except for NAFTA. NAFTA's horrible.
Well, George Bush did Patriot Act. Like that's the worst thing in my lifetime. I think that's for.
But you watch him engage with people, and that man was charming. He is a charming human, and he just pulls you in because if you notice, he doesn't do a lot of talking. He does a lot of listening, and he asks questions like, tell me about you. Tell me about your family. Tell me about your wife, your kids, your job. What's hard, what's good, what's not. And he listens. He pulls you in. You become the most important person to him in that moment in the entire space, and that is magic. That's why he's so good at what he was doing. That's why people loved him. It's what you're supposed to have as a public servant. You're supposed to have empathy and a desire to serve. And for all the other things that he had that. He could empathize with anyone and make anyone feel special. That is a gift, and that's something we've forgotten because now, if you're a politician, you're a celebrity.
Yeah, well, I mean,
and that's a problem.
I got disengaged with local politics. I mean, intentionally starting the podcast, we met a long time ago, not a long time ago. I don't know how long it's been since
it's been a while.
You, me, and AJ sat down. I like the local stuff. I was so disenchanted by the whole process and how things worked. I mean, the Republican Party has been a nightmare for as long as I can remember. There's a reason why I'm not really a Republican.
I'd say if I were to assess you, I'd say you're a very staunch independent if anything.
Well, I mean, I asked Grok today based on all the hundreds, if not thousands of hours I've been researching, and it came up with a really interesting thing. I posted it on Facebook today, and it was in response to my conversation with Noah. And he said, I'm going to turn you into a Democrat. At some, we were agreeing about the problems with AI and the security and tech that's coming into police and all that stuff. That's one of the things we aligned. And he thought, and I know he was saying it tongue in cheek and kind of laughing about it. At the same time, I'm like, no. That's I know I'm not that, and I don't think I'm the other thing either, but definitely not that.
Definitely not that.
Definitely not that. But anyway, that's so I know we haven't really hit on any of the things you mentioned. You mentioned housing authority, and we ran right through that door and stopped. Like,
right.
Tell us kind of what you're thinking about with what you're seeing, and kind of lay out why you wanted to talk about that.
Well, this came to me in a same way it always comes to us. Someone reached out to me, and then multiple people reached out to me and said, people are getting evicted in the wintertime. It's cold outside, and they're becoming homeless in the Evansville Housing Authority. So that obviously pulled at my heartstrings. I hated to hear that, and it was, and I'm a capitalist, and I understand that people have to make money, and they have to pay rent, they have to do all these things, but in the Evansville Housing Authority, there are certain rules that come into play that allow them to have rent adjusted or income adjusted rent. So I became very interested in that. And then I realized...
is that aligned with HUD?
It is.
Okay.
And then someone came to me and told me that they are involved in a church that was raising money to pay all the rents to zero. or a number of the rents is zero, or a significant portion of back rent. And I think they actually raised me even more money.
To stop the evictions, or attempt to stop the evictions?
And the evictions happened anyway. There was no notice. There was no notice, no chain of events, how they're normally laid out. And this had come after a lot of different, a whole lot of different, I would say, lax policies where people get used to not having to do one thing or another. And they did not have caseworkers. They didn't have all these things that were going on. So, the evictions have exploded over the last 2 years. We had a prior administration. It was pretty lax. There was not a lot of evictions. There were not a lot of
I think you shared some numbers. It was
I did.
Next to zero.
Next to zero. I did. I have a whole post on it.
And it maybe shouldn't be zero.
No, it should not be zero. There's a balance here. There's a balance. And we are not doing a good job.
Yeah, we're supposed to create a safety net and a springboard.
Correct.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be a helping hand up.
And it seems like they put a glass ceiling over the top of a lot of the stuff that's going on.
A lot of times. And we paralyze people by entitlement. We hand out dollars and it paralyzes their growth. And that's not good either. We do a really fantastic job in our city of subsidizing mediocrity. We'll get you just almost there and leave you. And this pulled at my heartstrings. It's cold outside. I grew up without a lot of money in my family. We were poor. I mean, we were just poor. So heat was a big deal to us. We had a wood burning fireplace. That's how we stayed warm when I was a kid. I mean, we're not that way now, but when I was,
I got a wood burning fireplace. I thought then I moved up in the world.
Yeah, I know. Well, this was what we used to heat.
That's what we buy a house now. It doesn't have a wood burning fireplace.
No, it was
my wife won't live there if not.
Oh, I love a wood burning fireplace for this very reason. Yeah. But these people were kicked out. So when I find out that the pastor of the church was trying to get answers from the Evansville Housing Authority and no answers, then I find out that our paper, Courier and Press, trying to get answers, nothing, zero. That's a problem. Then I hope that people continue looking into this. That is a place where we need to figure out what's going on. Why are these people evicted? Why are they out on their own? Because that stresses the community. That stresses them. That stresses the families they're part of. That stresses homeless shelters. That stresses everybody. There may be good reason for it, but it seems like this is for no known good reason, no published good reason. It has exploded.
So who's in charge of these policies and who's holding them accountable?
I don't think anybody is holding anybody accountable.
Okay.
I think.
Do you not want to mention who's head of it for any reason?
Who's head of the leasing? Well, the mayor oversees.
Evansville Housing Authority. Mm-hmm. Okay. Who runs Evansville Housing?
So
where's the buck stop?
Evansville Housing Authority has obviously it has a number of leadership individuals, COO, CEO. The vice president of leasing would be one of those people that's involved in this.
Full time position.
Correct. Okay. And there's a nonprofit arm called Advantix. They build and do development on behalf of the Evansville Housing Authority.
Development meaning building out space or renovating space. Correct. Or okay.
Yeah, they
so it's a construction arm of
in large part they do a lot of that. So when you have these entities that become opaque and there's no published minutes, there's no published board decisions, and it's a public organization. Our taxes are paying this. And we have no visibility into what's going on, it raises an enormous amount of questions. And there are some incestuous relationships there. I mean, the mayor's husband is the vice president of leasing. So when you try and figure these things out, not that that's a bad thing. I'm not saying that's a bad thing.
It might not be, but it seems like there's a conflict a little bit there. I mean, are you going to hold your spouse to the same standard? I mean, are you going to ask the questions that need to be asked?
I hope so. I would hope so.
Okay.
What I would say is
we could solve this pretty quick if they would just answer questions.
Yeah, I mean, it would be. This would not even be.
It doesn't need to be a story.
It shouldn't be. It should not be. And I don't understand why the answers aren't more forthcoming. If I'm part of a publicly traded company and the SEC shows up and says, "Hey, I've got some questions for you," we're going to give them answers as fast as possible. For all intents and purposes, the voters, the taxpayers, we're the accountable body for these people. They should be giving us every answer we ask for. There's nothing secret here. There's no violation of privacy. There's no any of these things. We don't even need to know the names of the people that are being evicted. Just tell me why they're being evicted, right? So that's a huge issue. I think and it's not because I want to try and find some subversive reason for these things. It's because I want to know why people are cold. Why are they out on the street now? Who's taking care of them now? We had taken the responsibility of doing it as taxpayers through the Evansville Housing Authority. Where are they now? Who's being hurt? What public service, what non-profit is now taking care of the people that we were taking care of? And are they being taken care of? It's cold. These people are going to be very cold. And these people are elderly. They have kids. They have a whole spectrum of people who were just evicted from their homes. I'm not saying that's always a bad thing. I'm saying we just need to know why and make sure that they've gotten to the next place where they can get back into productive citizen status. How are we helping to rehabilitate them and get them back into society again and taken care of with a roof over the head and heat and food and all those things? That is the kernel. That is the source of my angst with this. These people were kicked out at Christmas time. That's the worst story I have heard in a long time. It's horrible. It makes me feel terrible about us.
Well, I mean, I definitely feel the human element. I've had family members that, have had to use different programs from time to time, and it's you definitely, especially during Christmas time and the holidays and in cold. I mean, you're absolutely right. It seems like there would be a better time in the place, other than when it's going to be 20 degrees or almost 0 degrees to force these people wherever they landed. And, I do have the human element, but I do kind of remove emotion from some things because you have to in order to make, solid decisions. And so to me, the accountability, again, there needs to be some accountability in the people that are in those programs. There needs to be a ladder up out of those programs because
I totally agree with that.
You can't just keep forcing it in because our taxes, our money's worth less and less, and we're demanded more and more.
There's a finite amount of monies that are coming into the city, and we're not doing a great job of spending it as it is. I mean, we have $515 million in our budget, and we are losing money because we don't sign grants. That's a huge problem. That is a huge, huge problem. We're instituting new taxes just to cover our infrastructure costs. And here we are with these massive spends, and now people are getting evicted, and this is a bad look. It feels bad. I want to understand why it's happening.
It's crazy that you just brought this up because a friend of mine lives just south of Owensboro in Ohio County. I don't know if you know Ohio County, Kentucky, but just yesterday, a man had passed away from the elements. He was out. He was homeless. He was out. He was found on the steps of a church, actually.
Oh my gosh.
And they believe it was the elements that took his life. And so it was, and he was homeless. And so it's a very important thing. That's all. I'm just reaffirming that what you're talking about is very important.
It is very heartbreaking. I don't get emotional about much. I'm a pretty logical individual, but I can promise you these people are hurting. We have a responsibility. We brought them in. We started caring for them. And whatever brought them to whatever issues there are, number one, I want to be able to feel satisfied that we did what we could. If they're not compliant, if there's something that they did, okay, I get it. Just tell me what it is. I don't assign names to the issues.
Could be a very significant mental illness too.
It could be anything. They needed something that we couldn't provide, or they were non-compliant in some way that we don't know about. I don't really care what the issue is, as long as I understand there was an issue there. This wasn't just arbitrary. Do we have now 155 empty units just sitting there?
Yeah, that's a question I wrote down.
That's what I want to know.
Who's in there now? Who was kicked out? What were the metrics used? Were they consistent metrics?
Absolutely.
And were those empty spaces filled, and by who? So did we all of a sudden come up with some need and someone? Why did this person deserve it more than another? I mean, again, this could be solved very quickly, and I think in this dream transparency platform that we're building right here on this podcast today, we need to have a way to. I don't care what level you are in the bureaucracy, you have accountability, and you are paid for by taxpayer dollars. Yes. And I don't care if you have a person above you that's quote unquote your boss. Ultimately, they're not your boss. We are your boss, and this platform that we will build is going to say, if you don't answer these questions in a transparent, logical way, we will find a way to replace you with someone that does. Whether that's through the next election, we will put all of our resources, all of our knowledge. And guess what? The person that we get in the office next time might not be as great as we think they could be. And guess what? We'll do the same thing to them over and over and over again.
Every single time until we, the people, the public, the voters, get the people, the leaders in place that are actually going to commit to doing the things they say they're going to do. Every time we turn around, someone's saying, well, we'll be the most transparent, the most accountable administration, the history of all administrations will be great. No. In 100 days, you should be able to tell me every single solitary thing that you're doing, what you've identified, and how you're fixing it. There is no reason, zero reason why we can't have those numbers. I don't even have to have actions taken other than here's the mess we found ourselves in. Here's what we're doing to fix it. And then that starts the clock on a 365-day plan to fix it.
Well, and it feels like we create new problems before we fix old problems. And you always have these grand projects that every leader of a community wants to bring this to here or do that to that. I'm like, we'll give you permission to do that. As soon as you prove that you're doing the things that you actually signed up for, that are right here, that you're failing here, we don't have the money because it's not coming in here, this needs to be fixed. If you fix
what
that,
I think would be a grand project? Accountability. Build this website, build this database, then put it out. Let us see it.
Yeah, I'll volunteer to tell you what I feel like it needs to be, and I'm sure we could get more tech people that would do that.
Do that, commit to that, and set up every administration after you for success.
100%.
Just do that one thing, because I am so sick and tired of people.
Well,
saying,
no offense to administration, you are setting up administration for success, but quite honestly, I don't give a crap about what they gauge as success. I gauge what the citizens want.
That's exactly what I'm
so
talking
that's
about.
that's the accountability that they need.
That's the success that they don't necessarily know that they need. The success for any administration should be the benefit to the people. That's it.
This platform is continuity from one to the next.
That's it. That's what this would provide.
handoff.
It would be this is the quickest way to handle. When you have a CEO of a company and there's a succession plan, which there is always a succession plan in a good company. In fact, a lot of times the insurance companies make you have one and submit it. You have a succession plan that hands off this information, hands off these projects, and this is what we do here. This is what's going on here. This is the next step. This is the next step. This is where the liabilities live. This is all these things. This continuity plan encompasses all these things. That's what this dashboard does. Only now the shareholders that are normally referenced in a document like that are the voters. They're the voters. And every time a new election rolls around, here's the scorecard. How good you do? How did you do? What did you do for us? How much money? They will be able to quantify how much money did you lose for us in overruns, in projects that died on arrival, on silly things that should never have been spent on or how
spending $1 million on a plan and never going through
100%,
whatever the thing
100%. That's what I'm talking about. Those are the kind of things that will change the dynamics of what it means to be successful in politics. It's just the way business has been doing it for, I don't know, 50, 60, 100 years. That's how businesses last through multiple changes. We have not been doing a good job of it because we've had this big, huge machine that operates in the bureaucracy that just keeps things going on at a status quo. The contracts just get bigger because the dollars are worth less. That's it. We're not doing it right. And we can. And it's the Evansville housing thing. This could 100% be legitimate. Every single solitary eviction could have a legitimate reason. It could be a nothing burger, or this is a series of processes.
Well, let me put you on the spot. If you were mayor, or if you were the head of the EHA, or whatever level is accountable to public facing information, like whoever is the accountability person within that, what could be done right now? I mean,
the first thing I would do if I was in this role of any level of leadership, and had oversight over this or authority over this, the first thing I do is I would grab that pastor. He and I would get in front of a group just like this, and we sit down and we'd lay the books out. Here's exactly what happened. Here's what these people have done to create this eviction status. This is where we failed, or this is where we are enforcing policies. This is how it happened. This is how it transpired. You want to come in and you want to put money in? Great. We have this amount of people that are eligible for that cash. This amount of people over here, they were outside the boundaries of what we can have inside our Evansville Housing Authority guidelines. They're outside those guidelines. This is why they were evicted. But here's the background. Here's the people eligible for that. Let's do it. That's the level of transparency. And it should be made to the public. There should be a public statement saying, we're working on this. These people will not be left in the cold. The people that are out of that have been evicted, we're transitioning them into housing.
Some kind of
short-term housing where they could be
with a plan.
That's what the responsibility to the public is. And that's what the responsibility these leaders have to us. We're the ones who elected them. That's what they're not doing. You want to immediately, and I mean immediately, get ahead of these things and say, okay, we missed it. This is a blind spot. We didn't see it coming. We're fixing it. And it's okay.
Travis has been pretty quiet, but he found the clap button. That was pretty good.
I'd put the applause in there.
But if you just do that, that's what any business person does when they make a mistake or there's something hits them sideways or something comes off the rails. They immediately triage it. They fix the problem. And then they set a whole strategy in place so it never, ever, ever, ever happens again. And if it does, it's happening in a slightly different way that we didn't expect. But that's not what's happening. Instead, it's just dead silence.
Yeah. So, in my opinion, from now until the next election, local election, we need to build an accountability, interim accountability tool, which is, again, Chad doesn't need to be the leader of it. Chad would be happy to be a part of it. Is we need to start spotlighting these problems that are out there and start documenting them, giving people the opportunity to come in and justify what's going on.
Perfect.
If you want to maintain this position after the next mayor or the next whatever your potential boss comes in, you should be sourcing what's going on with everything, and you should be willing to come out and say, here's the problems, and if this would happen, or this is what caused this, and so this is why we had to do that. I mean, you're basically laying yourself out to say, we were wrong about it. Here's why it happened. Here's how we're going to fix it. I mean, ultimately, that's what you got to do when you're in business every single time.
You're in a room full of people who, if they're doing their job right, are questioning you all the time. If we're in business and you're leading the company that I'm working for, and I'm in a position of leadership with you, I'm going to walk in and say, hey, Chad, have you thought about this? Because this is what's going to happen if we do this. Or, hey, this is happening. We need to get ahead of this. Or this happened and we need to fix this. That's what good leaders do for the people in the big chair. We're not seeing that. And if we are, it's happening in a black box and we don't know what's going on. And that makes us question everything. When in reality, this could all be legitimate. This could all be very legitimate things that are going on, but it's happening in a vacuum, so we don't know. So instantly, all the red flares are going up. We're questioning everything, and we think the worst possible outcome. That's human nature.
Well, I've heard people, and it's just a dumb argument. It's the cancel culture, woke stuff. Is, well, you're only saying this because it's political, and you're trying to ruffle feathers. No, this is actually a human situation that should be accountable anyway. Like, just because it's politics, like everything is politics. Mm-hmm. Everything that we do in life has some political element to it.
Yes, it does.
And if you're inside of a system that is opaque and that just kind of excuses things as status quo, that's why people become disenfranchised. That's why I've never wanted to be inside the political sphere. Like, if I felt like I was in there actually helping things, making it better for my kids,
gosh, yeah.
I want my kids to live here someday, maybe. But if we keep going the way that it is, maybe not. Like, we own property in a different county. We own property in a different state. Mm-hmm. I don't have to be here. I choose to be here. I've always wanted to be here. And
it's a great place. And people here are good people for the most part.
Oh my gosh. Most
yes,
for sure.
I love the community that we have. I think we're just being underserved. And I think part of it is because we took our eye off the ball. We
at every level, for sure.
Yeah, we as the public, we have a responsibility to hold our leadership accountable. We vote for them. And we've just kind of taken our eye off the ball. I think a lot of the technology that we're seeing, a lot of the AI tech, a lot of things that were going on, it takes, like I said, I spend hours researching this. My wife gets so tired of it. Hours poring over documents that are just the most boring, onerous, challenging things to get through that you've ever seen. Now that we have the ability to quickly analyze data, and people are things are happening in real time, and things are being posted in a very town square kind of way via social media. People don't have to do that work now. They can now just start asking questions. I think that's so valuable. The reason why people love Trump or hate Trump is because whatever he says, whatever he's thinking, it gets out on social media and it's policy. We're doing this. It's done.
There is no filter.
There's no filter.
It comes out.
It does.
It drives me crazy sometimes.
Oh, me too. Oh my gosh, me too. But he responds to people. There's no question about what's going on in his head. Zero. It's not okay for us to be. My favorite argument that I hear from people all the time, anytime I post something or anytime where I have a conversation with somebody, oh, well, you're running for office. You're just doing this because you're running for office. No.
You're running office because of it, probably.
I'm doing this because I'm irritated.
Yeah.
Because I'm mad. Because someone somewhere is being underserved, and a lot of times people ask me to get involved with something. Please raise awareness in this. Please raise awareness in this. I've had multiple people in the mainstream media in our local community reach out to me privately and say, thank you for doing this. We can't put this on the air. Thank you for raising awareness. That has happened. And that's a interesting thing. I don't know why they can't. I don't know what the issues are. I just know.
Are you talking about media companies? You don't know why they can't say things that are
right. I mean,
derogatory to the people that give them money.
Local media. I think they would love to run stories on.
Who pays their bills?
Yeah, that's probably fair. That's probably fair.
Well, I mean, it's that simple. They're not they're not on public dollars. Good for them. I mean, I don't want government paying for propaganda, even though they're controlling a lot of it. But they definitely have things that they can't talk about, which is the kind of the real problem. And you said we've taken our eye off the prize. Me and Travis always come back to education being the core of most all of that. Like, if we were taught true history and not that the history that says our founders were all racist and so therefore we can't look at anything they ever did or anything they ever said, that's actually what our kids have been trained in public schools. So they've been trained not to listen to what the founders warned us about, what would happen to government if you weren't actively involved. Right. They even spoke to blood in the streets because of differences, and they were very serious about it. And now, do any of us really want that extreme? No, we don't. But you're going to get civil unrest at some point because all we're keep doing is putting patches over the top of it and dumbing down people to not be able to have a civil debate, not having them ask the right questions, not having them demand the
ugly
answers.
Names if you start having a debate with anybody. So you've got to remember with the founding fathers, and this is something people often forget. They just kind of have these visions of these people just sitting in a room somewhere. They were revolutionaries. These were rough men.
A lot of them very young.
And very young. They came out of, so we're what? We're a very young country.
Yeah, 250-ish.
Yeah, we're coming up on our 250th birthday for our country, right? They came out of England. They came out of France. They came out of all of these countries in Europe that have been there for thousands of years. They have seen revolution. Some of the bloodiest things you've ever seen that happened in France. These people have freshly come out of a revolution over there. They have been constantly in upheaval where these transitions of government happen, and a lot of times in a very, very bloody, horrible way with tons of persecutions of people in the street. They came here to get away from it. They saw it firsthand. We are just, it happens about every 250, 300 years, somewhere in there.
Strange number.
So, you can watch it cyclically throughout history. It occurs, and it generally is violent, and that's unfortunate. I don't know how we've come as a civilization. If we move past that, I'd like to think so. We'll see.
We're not in post-violent society.
I'd like to hope that we won't.
You're
see
a cop,
that
man.
I'd like to hope we won't see that happen here. But my point is, these people had just experienced it. They just had experienced it, and they had a huge revolution that was bloody and killed hundreds of thousands of people in the worst possible ways imaginable to create this country. And so they wrote this codex of laws and thoughts and theory, and they put this together to try and protect us from what they had just gone through. And we've forgotten that.
No, we haven't forgotten it.
Some have.
The people that wanted the power, England, all the people that lost the land that is America, they've always been trying to get that back for 250 years. So it's been a slow erosion, and it hasn't been we're having these wars and battles directly against them, though we did have some of those things. It became more of a devolution of our society through, the money printer started about 100 years ago or so, or whenever that started, but kind of was when the clock started ticking, and fractional banking crazy what that's done to erode sovereign wealth. I mean, I got that amazing clip. When you and I get into more deep things, like we've got so many things to talk about.
When you decouple from an actual backer like gold, when they decouple cash from gold, it changed everything. It just did. I mean, that's just the simple reality of that. There's nothing that backed it at that point. So it changed everything.
Now it's backed by 6 or 7 people in a room, and they're not held accountable at any level.
It's a really interesting model that they're operating from, and I am fascinated by it.
It's a very optimistic way to put it. I don't think I've ever quite put it like that.
If you look at how they're doing it and how these mega banks operate, these global institutions operate. So if you look at sovereign funds and you look at the people who are still coupled with gold or coupled with some resource of some sort, they are enormously wealthy, and they're lending people money because they've got backed currency to manage that. You look at countries like China, who the World Bank transact business. We have they do audits of every currency every year except China. Makes you wonder what would happen if they actually did evaluation of their cash.
I've been hearing a lot of things, and I think people try to say they're this big threat. I think they're near implosion, honestly. They're having a population collapse in a lot of ways. They've gone.
Well, I mean, some of this by design.
They went all in on all this construction. Like they've been doing construction, and now they're not having the population to fill these things, these grand city plans out. There's no money. They're pushing things around. So I'm listening to both sides of the argument here. I'm not just saying I know the answer, but I
think they're gobbling up a lot of the gold and everything. I think China owns a lot of that gold now.
Gold and oil. It's just a fascinating model these people are operating from. Everyone's playing the game a little differently, with a little different. And I don't even pretend to operate in that space. I observe it, and I know a little bit about a little bit in that world. It's just interesting when you watch how money moves across markets and across nations. It's interesting.
Well, it's interesting to go back and forth on the big picture and how things move, and then try to narrow those down to how that filters into local. Because it's all attached. For us to think that that's the one thing that I kind of go back on, and I was absolutely wrong about. I always thought, well, local politics is different, and local politicians are different. In many ways, they are. But it's all the same system. It's a microcosm. It's a microcosm of the larger problem,
of the larger machine. Local politicians are fascinating because they actually have the chance to do things. They can make real changes really fast. It's the difference between a small business and a great big huge one. A global enterprise takes a lot more to turn the ship. It's just an order of magnitude. If you've got a great big aircraft carrier, you have to change course carefully. If you've got an itty bitty speedboat, you can whip around very, very quickly with very small turning radius. It's just economy of scale. So I love local politics. I think state politics are fascinating. At a national level or an international level, things get really challenging because there's a lot of different voices, a lot of things that get in your way of doing things that you want to do. But local politicians are fascinating. I think there is so much opportunity to do good things for good people. And I'm one of those people that took his eye out the ball. I used to live in a county. I bear responsibility for that. I'm 100% I bear responsibility for that. I used to live in a county. I ignored what happened in the city because I didn't particularly care. It didn't affect me. I was a consultant. I traveled all over
I've lived in the county all my life. Yeah.
Yeah.
So except for today.
Yeah. And I didn't really pay that much attention. That things went along about their way, and I just assumed things were fine because it didn't affect me. Well, I should have paid attention because I lived in the county adjacent to the city, the third largest city in the state. Were things run perfectly? No, of course they weren't run perfectly. Should I have been more involved and looking into things? 100%. Looking back, 100%. I paid attention to things at the county and state level and above because that's what affected me. Do I wish I had paid attention? Yes. Did I take my eye off that ball? Yes. Do I bear responsibility for it? 100%. Have I changed my ways since moving to the city? 100% yes, because there's a lot of things that annoy me and a lot of things that could be done better and a lot of things we are doing well. We just don't talk about them because they're not the most fun or sexy things that you could be talking about, but they do serve core functions within the city and they do deserve recognition. There's a lot of people that work very, very hard to make sure things work right here. and we don't pay enough attention to them. We talk about bright and shiny objects you mentioned a little bit ago. The bright and shiny objects should be making sure core services of the city are running flawlessly, or as close to flawlessly as humanly possible, and celebrate those before we do a damn thing to change anything else. That's it. Nice roads, excellent police force, well-staffed, well-equipped, with a strong pipeline of qualified candidates to backfill, great fire department, great schools. The end. Do all that, and then and enable small, medium, and big size business.
I'm calling utilities.
We're getting there. Enable small, medium, and big size business. Then we start looking at how in the world do we adjust this utility issue, because we are paying. We talk about CenterPoint all the time, and CenterPoint's a real pain in the butt. And I hate everything that happens with these rate increases. And I sure hope, and I actually had it as a talking point to talk about.
Yeah,
the IURC.
The new IURC position. Yeah, it's definitely one of the things I wanted to.
But we pay an exorbitant amount just for water here. It is exorbitant
for water that I refuse to drink.
Right, and the vast majority of your water bill is actually fees. It's ridiculous, and they're sitting on top massive cash reserves over there, which is something we should look at. Why don't we sell it? Why don't we privatize it? Why don't we look at alternatives? There's a lot of different things we could do, but we don't talk about it at all. We don't explore it at all, and it's generally a black box. I don't like that. I don't like it when people raise fees on us for no reason. I don't like having no control over it. I don't like that. And so that's just as much of as a hurt for everyone's monthly bills as CenterPoint is. And we just don't talk about it because CenterPoint is the big monster. And yet the city controls what happens at the Evansville Water Sewer Utility. We total control of that. And we don't talk about it at all. But we continue raising rates. And we do things like shut down septic grease strap receiving plants. But they're the largest city in the state. That should be a core service. We should never even contemplate doing that. And if it's out of disrepair, we figure out how to fix it.
Yeah, so, I mean, any future mayor or future person that works within the government, they should understand. I don't have disdain for individuals in there. I know a lot of people like you, and they're good. They're good people that work within these organizations and these systems. Great. But they're also disgruntled. They also have to pay all these things, and they also probably aren't very popular at some events when they go out because people know where they're
not going to wear their logo away, right?
Yeah. How many people have you seen with a CenterPoint shirt on in the city?
Or a water department shirt? Not many.
Not very many. And so but at the end of the day, any mayor that can now look past this idea that we're talking about and not address it head on. To me, every person that works for a county government or city government should want a leader in a system, like learning the Toyota production system. You learn that a breakdown in the system, it's hardly ever the person that causes a problem. It's a breakdown in the process. And this, we are exactly to a point where you come into a new position in the government, and you have no idea what's expected. You have no idea what's happened in the past. The person may have given you a week or 2 weeks worth of training, maybe not, and you're just coming in blind and expected to know what to do next. And that's not fair. It's not setting you up for success. That's the people that I'm more concerned about setting up for success. I mean, a mayor might not be set up for success. A mayor's got to juggle a lot of things. And
so the chief executive of the city, if you don't have a strong system in place to help drive accountability and transparency just for you to lead and make good decisions on, you're already setting yourself up for tons of failure. And it may or may not be your fault, but quick, fast, and in a hurry, you need to figure something out to make it work.
Well, I think every person that's currently in the government should want to sit down, not necessarily with me, but should want to get their position on things. If they really care about the direction of the city and the end, how the city ends up and drawing more people in than we're losing every month and every year, making it more affordable, they should say, here's what I'm doing and here's our plan. Here's how I'm setting up the next person that takes this role in office, because I care about the next person being successful. This isn't about Republicans and Democrats. This isn't about the next position that I'm going to get in the world. This is about me doing my job to the best of its ability, leaving a legacy for my name and my family, but also setting the next person up for success. And I just don't understand the lack of desire for that.
It comes back down to we have people that are doing jobs. They have no idea what the job is. They just don't. We elect people that want to be political celebrities. Or like you say, it's a stepping stone to the next thing. This is where we're going wrong. We are going wrong. We need to start electing people based on what they can do for us. That's it. The entire election cycle, the entire process should be the longest, hardest interview that these people have ever gone through in their life. It should be grueling. I should sit down. If I'm running for office, I expect to sit in this chair and you ask me any question that pops into your head. Some of them I'll be able to answer. Some of them I'll have to think about. Some of them I'll have to say I'll figure out. But every answer I give you should go on a scorecard and say, this is what he said. This is what he said. This is what he said. This is what he didn't do. Or this is all the stuff he did do. That is what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be the longest, most grueling, most challenging interview process in the history of your work career.
And your State of the Union address should be happening to the city every year is, here's what it was when we came in. Here's what I said I was going to do. Mm-hmm. Here's what's been done. I didn't quite get to where I wanted to get. Here's what happened. I'm going to try to do better. And I was wrong, or maybe
it's a shareholder call.
It's just what it is.
It's a shareholder call.
Right.
Every single company has shareholder calls. You say, this is where we spent your money. This is where we won. This is the profits that we captured. This is the work that we did. This is the products that we created. This is the R&D we did. It's just accountability, basic level accountability. And because we don't publish these things in a clear and transparent way, because we do not give this information out freely in a digestible format, people have no idea what you're talking about. So you can get away with talking about nothing. And that is unacceptable to me. That is unacceptable. When I sit and listen to a State of the City address, and it's just a bunch of nonsense that has absolutely nothing to do with actually what's going on in the city. When I have friends of mine who are shot in their homes or killed in their homes because we don't have proper policing here, because we don't have enough staff to do the work, or I have friends of mine in the fire department that are exhausted, or people in the city are reaching out to me saying, we've got problems and I can't tell anybody. Or I have close friends of mine in the business community saying, we are starving here. The city is not even allowing us to get people into our places of business because the infrastructure is so bad. These people have been here for generations and done amazing things here, and they are desperate for answers, desperate for opportunity. And that's all that we're supposed to do. As an elected official, it is not our job to do their work for them. It is our job to create an environment of opportunity. Here's what can be done. Here's all the programs, the processes, the systems by which we will run the most efficient government possible to give you the highest opportunity possible for success. That's it. That is our highest calling, and be completely transparent and accountable to this. This is not a hard thing. Here's the contracts we have for the roads. Here's the contracts we have for this. Here's the contracts for this. How many times did you run down the Lloyd Expressway, come off an exit ramp, and see it mowed? I dare you to go through Garvin Park right now in the dark.
I don't think I'd do that.
Don't do that. Don't walk through there. I really don't want you to.
Maybe during Fantasy Lights.
Maybe. Yeah, but don't do it.
In my car.
I wouldn't go quote unquote alone, if you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, no. No. There are places in this city. There are people who are doing such amazing work to try and provide beautiful renovations in downtown on Main Street. There are investors that are pouring dollars and treasure and time and resources into making this great. And we are, as a city, underserving them. We are not helping them survive. Did we just go into your second talking point here? Or maybe.
Your third one?
Maybe.
You had told me, you gave me three things. I'm sorry. I prepared probably harder than I have prepared for any podcast because I wanted to come with some really juicy clips, and we probably won't get to any of them. You make it easy to not really prepare, but I learn things whenever I do the research and things. But
100%.
So we kind of, I think we got enough out of the affordable,
sure,
the affordable housing. You said fiscal solutions and business growth.
Yes. So
I think that feels like where you were heading.
A little bit.
Yeah.
So I think we are, well, I don't think anything. I know we are underserving our business community. I
think of the Stockwell Inn.
Yeah, the Stockwell.
R.I.P.
That is a heartbreaking situation. It is heartbreaking.
All due to road infrastructure.
I spent a lot of hours in that building.
And a complete...
Eating a lot of food there. Anyway, sorry.
Caused a lot of trouble there, probably, I guess.
Yeah.
Why'd you have to bring that up, Cop?
Yeah. Copper.
You don't know me that well.
You don't know me.
I'm just traveling over here.
That's it. I think that we are hurting our business community. I don't think our infrastructure is up to snuff. And I don't think we have enough focus on making sure that it is. I don't think we give our people enough opportunity. And that's not because I want to give them handouts. I'm a business guy. I am a capitalist. A business should stand on its own. It should stand on its own merits. However, when you remove the road by which people get to that business, that's a problem, right? And if you do it for a long, protracted amount of time, that's over a year, there's no way an eatery can stay in business. You just can't. We do a really, really good job of subsidizing mediocrity. I say this all the time. It is whatever the lowest bar of acceptable operations, that's where we seem to find ourselves time and time again, because we are not looking for the opportunity to be excellent. We're satisfied with status quo or less. Riverside, that street took forever to get fixed.
That sinkhole?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not because it couldn't be fixed. It's because we just didn't get it fixed.
I got a leadership tangent here. So, and I've pulled into Stockwell a lot, and there's that road that runs right in front of it.
Yeah.
Not Stockwell, but the one that you turn and you can turn into the parking lot, and then there's like an industrial. There's a couple buildings down beyond that. Does that? I've never went out that way. Does that road go out? It's just a dead end back in there.
Dead ends back there.
Okay. Then my question is moot. I was going to say, like, if we could have had detour signs and like went out of their way, like the city, someone in leadership should have figured out a way to route people in and out of there and to properly help the business stay alive.
You would think. You would think so. But even outside of that, there are fiscal remedies that could have been put in place. They say they had cited that there were some issues when they got into the drainage and all the water and all those things. There are studies that go along with this that are done before you ever start digging. They're required. And if they weren't done, that's a whole different set of issues. But you put together a contract that says it's going to be completed in this time. And if it's not, you're going to start getting fined. And those fines should go to the businesses that are being impacted to subsidize them through this process.
100%.
This is not a hard riddle to figure yourself out of. You are outside the boundaries of a contract. Now you're going to start in the business world. This happens every day.
Oh yeah.
You're now going to start paying fines, and those fines are going to go to the people that you're hurting.
And guess what? Those fines are very motivating.
Oh yeah, they would have had this done quick, fast, in a hurry, but that's not what we're doing. I don't know why it isn't what we're doing, but that's not what happened. We just talk about, well, there were things that we didn't know about. Not our problem. We're the city. It's your job. It's your job, developer. It's your job, railroad. It's your job, industrial paving group, to figure this out. And if you can't figure it out, then you're going to get fined. And then you're going to get fined until you fix it. That would have saved these people. It's not a hard thing to do. We have budget increases in our city budget. We are now at $115 million. We are not growing small businesses. We are not growing mid-sized businesses. In fact, businesses are leaving. This is a bad situation to find ourselves in, because businesses as a whole, small business in particular, are the glue that holds the community together. If we don't have those people here, we don't have those tax dollars and those destination spots, why come into the city at all? You're going to start seeing them go away. When the grease receiving station was scheduled to be shuttered Jan 1 of 2026, every restaurant owner that I know, and I know a lot of them, so do you, freaked out because these grease traps have to be maintained. It's code from the health department. It would have gone from $300 to $1,000 or more. And that's what the people who are doing the service work told me. They called me and said, this is a huge problem. This could put us out of business too. What do you think is going to happen to all those businesses if this had happened? All those restaurants, all those small mom and pop places, all those really great non-chain restaurants that cannot absorb that kind of a hit. Their margins are thin. They're very small. And they employ so many local people.
So let's focus in on that, because I feel like if this conversation,
and thank God for Justin. Thank God for Justin Helpers. He got involved.
Yeah. Well, you can come back to that. It would make sense to me if this organization with this problem, they decided to shutter really without telling anybody, giving any explanation. If you were having transparent, open conversations about the real problem that caused them to make that decision, then you're going to involve people and let people hear it and understand it and get engaged with a potential solution.
Correct.
Like if you just keep it to yourself and you're not out there telling people what's going on, first of all, you look like an idiot. That was like a huge black eye to me. It was like, how can you,
incredibly damaging.
How can you do that? I don't understand how you can just say, well, sorry, we were doing that service, but we're not doing that anymore. Good luck. I mean, are you serious? That's crazy. So
it's incredibly
if that conversation would have been happening here, say whoever was in control of that decision-making process, and I'm not saying here, but having an open conversation with somebody sitting across from a table, you're going to get people hearing it that might have a solution. I thought about, well, could I start a business tomorrow and go manage these grease traps? I mean, you're going to get independent business owners coming out of the woodwork because they didn't even know that there was a problem. Like we're always looking to build the next thing, even if it's an old thing that we need to rebuild from time to time. The old process maybe didn't work for whatever reason. How do we fix it?
What's crazy to me is that this has been a known issue for quite some time. This is not something
wasn't known to me.
No, it's been known to the government though. It's not something that just cropped up yesterday and they just have to make an emergency declaration that's got to close down for whatever reason. This is a core city county function. This is a core function. We're the third largest city in the state and the only one in our area with this capability. It's not sexy. It's not a fun project. It's not something that everybody loves to talk about, but they also like to have their septic tanks pumped. They like to have the grease traps taken care of, and they like the restaurants to go to. And they like it at an affordable cost. This is a core function that our eye was off that ball and the city leadership. And instead of fixing it, instead of coming up with a remediation plan, which they've known about for 2 years now, they just chose to shut it down, which was the wrong decision.
Was there any motivation in it, do you think? Or, again, this would be nice to have a real open conversation about it. If you tell people we're not going to help you manage your septic system anymore, basically what you're doing is forcing them into a city utility. So we've had a long-standing goal as a city to encroach on county property. My dad lives right on the edge of kind of the last encroachment. I think Lynch and I-69 or whatever, that I-164 crossover. Like the county hasn't, or the city hasn't gotten to him yet, but they tried, and the county residents shot it down. Oh. So you might not have been involved in that because we've had expansion discussions. I don't know, Travis, I don't know if you're around for that. I don't even remember what it's called, but they were trying to basically grow.
Annex them in.
Annex it in. There you go. So what they're trying to do then is basically force you into utilizing, like my dad didn't accept city water. That was because he has well water. Yeah. He's on, but city water runs by him. But at the end of the day, people now looking back is like, if you could have your own well and not have to rely on the water from the city, it's not too dumb of an idea. Is it convenient maybe to have city water? Yeah. Is it, whatever. But if the prices are going to go up and up and up over time, and it's, then everything else is going to go up and up over time. I mean, you have to live within your means no matter what. So I guess maybe it wasn't even a fair question to you, but I mean, I wonder the shutting down of it. Like, I don't know what they were thinking was going to happen with the restaurants, but I can imagine a world where like, well, we're not going to be able to do your septic system anymore, but this so happens that our server project, you can tap into the line.
Well, what happens in that situation is people become non-compliant and you now have a public health crisis.
Yeah.
Then they're going to just simply have to pay an enormous amount of money to get it pumped out. It goes from $1,000 to $3,000, and that is a massive bill. And what do you think is going to happen when someone gets hit with a $3,000 bill? Do you think they're going to be happy to go have it done again? No, they're not. This is a huge problem, and there's lots of conversations that we could have about annexing and the benefits to it, and how a lot of the county
might be something that we don't agree on.
It might be.
We haven't had very many of those yet.
No, but I came out of the county, so this would have been something that would have been very. I would have been super thrilled about it as the county, but I would have gotten a whole lot more interested in city politics.
Yeah.
I think in our current landscape, I don't think the county is very Republican. I don't think anybody in current administration wants to annex in ever.
More Republicans.
The more Republicans. That's not something they're going to be looking forward to. That's not it. But
we can just bring in more Haitians to offset.
I think what happened is they just didn't think it through. I think that's honestly what occurred. They had an unforced error because they didn't want to maintain this facility. And it's probably going to need some very significant maintenance. There'll have to be something done to bring it back into compliance and to a place where it's operating as it should in a safe, healthy way. But
and what are I don't want you to answer the question even because I think it's a little bit of a derailment. But what are the actual issues? Right. How is it out of compliance?
No one's told us. No one's told us.
Like it just give us the what for, and then who's saying it's not compliant. Who's the regulator?
Water sewer utility. Who's telling us? Not only that, but we don't even know how much it would be.
So they're self-policing?
They're
self-policing and telling us, dictating to us what we can and can't have. Well,
And so that's my biggest problem. We don't have a scorecard that tells us these things. We just are blindly trusting that they know what's going on.
No, we aren't. See, there you go. There you go, talking to that mouse in your pocket.
Mouse in his pocket.
Because me and Travis are on the same page.
The voters at all are assuming that these people know what they're doing. They're trying to manage these resources appropriately. I would challenge that assumption and say, you know what? Trust but verify. Show me that you're managing these resources. Every shareholder in every company ever gets a shareholder report. This is how we manage your resources. Your resources happen to be money. Our voter resources are our money. Our taxes that you're collecting to do the work that we elected you to do. That work is core city services. Period. If we get so good at core city services that we can now look at other things, great. The next mayor that comes into office needs to focus on that only. Core city services. Fix the things that need fixing, bring down the nearly $1 billion debt we have, and make the city better. Stop settling for mediocrity when we can have excellence. The core DNA of Evansville is rooted in excellence. Look what we did in World War II. We changed the course of a war here in little itty-bitty Evansville. Globally, we had an impact on a world war. We were a engine of ingenuity, and we have forgotten that. And it's not acceptable to me. I think we should get back to that. We need to get back to creating solutions that actually work. We need to get back to spending money wisely and being very, very fiscally conservative about what we spend money on. If I'm spending my money, I get real concerned on where it's going.
Oh, yeah.
Real concerned.
I can spend your money real well, though.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's what the government's
great
at.
Can I have some?
That's what the government's great at. They spend everybody's money. If you all of a sudden shine a bright and shiny light and you're talking about it all the time, here's how we're spending your money, here's how we're spending your money, here's how we're spending your money, people get real concerned because now it's their money. I have heard so many times, why do you care? It's tax money. And I think that is the most ridiculous argument I've ever heard. Go through my posts. You'll see it. You'll see people say that. Why do you care? It's taxes. It's tax money. Because I care, because it's my money.
Yeah, right. We all pay the taxes.
Well, no, we don't.
Well, sorry. Yeah, you're right.
No, we don't. But I want to have money spent wisely. I'm all for paying taxes. I want my taxes to create good infrastructure, good opportunity. I want strong public safety. That's fire and police, EMS. I want to know that you and your wife can walk downtown and feel perfectly safe. There should be no cause.
It hasn't been that way for a while.
No, it has not. And it's not the police fault. It's not the police department's fault. They do the very best that they can, and they do an exceptional job with limited resources. It is a fault of priorities in leadership. And our priorities are set, regardless of what's being said, priorities are set through the budget. And the budget is misaligned with what the priorities of the city actually should be. And that's the start and the end of that argument.
Okay, so I want to pivot just a little bit. Mm-hmm. We're talking about, we've talked about it a lot, kind of touched on it, but, a declining population of original residents, people are moving to the county, some people are dying, there's just, our population in the city limits is declining.
It is.
Except for the people that we are bringing in that aren't necessarily residents for whatever reason. That's a whole different thing. That's not why I'm going here. Mm-hmm. So the goal for any mayor and any administration, any city leadership should be able to create incentive for jobs is great. It's the same old story of jobs bring revenue bring people. We still are running into problems with that because people don't want to live in the city.
That's right.
And so you're on a treadmill of people are falling off the treadmill faster than people are coming in. And so the housing projects and the affordable spaces that you're creating aren't doing really anything to drive revenue to the city.
There's no taxable revenue coming in.
So there's none of that. So this is going to probably seem like a kind of a crazy clip that I'm going to share, and we haven't sound tested yet. So if the sound test doesn't work, we'll have to pause or get right back into it. I don't know if you've ever. So blindsiding you a little bit.
Love it.
But this is kind of an idea that I heard through a trigonometry podcast. I highly recommend watching this entire episode. It's astounding. It's only a little over an hour, and it's with Jimmy Carr, who is a British. Yeah, he's a British comedian, and he has very witty comedy. He obviously thinks at a very deep level, and he's how comedians are like you were talking about the story about how Trump won, and he was on the stage, and Hillary tried to throw him into that gotcha moment that he doesn't pay taxes. He's like, "You're right, I don't, because I'm smart
and I work the system."
And he was like, "Do what?" He told the truth, and it was funny. So I don't know if this is truth or not, but it's an idea that I think should be explored. Sorry, I had a bug moving around on my computer, and now I just lost my spot. So we're gonna have to test. We're gonna have to test the sound here real quick. And I can't believe I did that. I was trying to kill it. There was a little spider that walked in onto my keyboard. I'm not afraid of him. Come on. That's not something that you normally see. Okay, hang on 1 second. Let's do a sound check.
Nope. Looks like it's not going to work. Unplug, plug.
Unplug both of them?
No, hang on.
That's every IT person's go-to.
Yeah.
Turn it off and turn it back on.
When in doubt, when in doubt, reboot.
Yep.
There
Looks like we got something now. Let me just make sure that I'll go back just a little bit here. Okay. Sorry, this is not queued up perfectly now.
Way to cut it up. Do you know what comes to my mind when we're talking and the ideas that you're proposing? And I think why we have a crisis in the elites at the moment is that whenever I talk to my friends who are more of the, shall we say, traditional way of viewing the world, what strikes me is that they have an inflexibility of thought. And I say to them, have you ever thought about this? Have you thought about this? Have you thought about this? Or this argument? They're like, no, that doesn't adhere to my worldview. But in this world that we're moving into, the one that you're talking about and the one that we're all seeing, you need a flexibility of thought. You need to be able to consider new ideas. You need to be able to understand that there's a technology coming in, AI, that is going to radically transform the way we live, the way we work, the way we interact with each other, the way that we see ourselves.
Yeah.
And we're going to need to have to actually be flexible.
Yeah, I think that thing about what's a revolution, well, everything, it changes everything, right? So if everything changes, how would you want to conduct your society? I mean, I don't understand. We'll come on to AI because I've got some views on AI, but that idea of going, why don't we have a sovereign wealth fund? Why have we not got one in the UK? We're sitting talking on the day of the budget, and that would strike me as quite a radical thing to do. There are certain things that should belong to everyone. And one of those things is the oil and gas that sit under the UK. And also the wind farms around the coast. All of that money goes to the Crown. Why? That should belong to everyone. The mobile phone masts, that'd be a good thing that you go, okay, I'm not a socialist. I'm not even for state capitalism, but the idea of going, well, that should belong to everyone. We should own that, and we should, and our, I'm not saying maybe we should restart the mining industry, but I would not mind it if our government said, yeah, we're going to mine for bitcoins. Our power stations they don't do anything at night, so we're going to mine for bitcoins. Great. New gold standard. Fine. Do something radical, something interesting with the finances of the country. Why does it all have to come from taxation?
So
very valuable.
Obviously, I'm not talking about the country. We're talking about the city. The overlap we're talking about data centers a lot also, and the huge energy drain. We haven't even had that conversation at any real length, I don't think. And I think that's something, there's a lot of people stirred up about it. A lot of people that are scared about it. A lot of people, and I've got fears that don't really even
This is
align.
This is a legitimate concern. When you start talking about energy deficits out in the space, we're already operating at a 40 to 60% energy deficit. We just had the Trump administration require CenterPoint to keep 2 coal plants open to just meet the basic.
Well, and there's people barking and complaining about that.
Oh yeah.
And there's so many little nuanced conversations to have, because I know that coal is underneath our feet.
Oh yeah.
So this cheapest, safest, fastest thing that we can get our hands on is what's right below your feet, and everything that you have to drag from across the planet or from another state through chips and equipment that comes through China, who doesn't like us very much anyway, and is trying to compete with us over time. Like, there's so many things that are bad there, but let's not run right past into the energy, because energy is important. The idea, because our city is in debt, our county, I don't know if our county's in debt, but our city is in debt, and there is no real thing, I think, that people can look to inspire some hope and some ideas. Why wouldn't we, as a city, consider it? If it would, some state laws and some attorneys would need to be talked to. But if we're creating these things and we are somehow find a way to get some sovereign wealth in the city, like create some apparatus that we're not relying on money from the outside, or something that actually generates money. I mean, you look at tourism stuff, and we're going to build this thing over here, and all the people are going to show up, and they're going to bring all this money streaming in. Well, does that really ever happen in any huge capacity? I don't know. Maybe. It's surely not transparent if it's happening. If we could really have some serious conversation about this,
it certainly doesn't happen quickly. It takes a long time, 20 years to do that.
Well, even if so, this sovereign wealth idea and mining for I'm going to use mining for Bitcoin, because he hit a couple things in there that really intrigued me. And so, if the city is able, like, we got a big ass river right out there that could be used in more of a hydro capacity. We don't do that at all. It also works as a cooling mechanism, which is huge for mining for crypto, mining for Bitcoin. It requires energy. It requires cooling. And all I'm saying is like, we're trying to come up with new ideas, because I really kind of feel myself that Evansville is in a pivot point, and we have a lot of potential and a lot of opportunity. But the darker side of me also sees a lot of things going in the very wrong direction. I mean, people quitting departments, people frustrated and upset, prices going up and up and up and up, and the only answer to it is charge you more and more and more and more. I mean, where does that end? Is there a ceiling that's happening anytime soon? Because our wages aren't going up to cover it. So I just want to throw this idea as, you got a big brain. I'm not saying you're going to have an answer to it. We just need ideas like this, that are thinking outside of the box. Like, how can we actually create something that can bring value to people? Like, I would live in the city of Evansville and be inspired to live here if there was a sovereignty fund, and that I was part owner of this wealth building apparatus that's happening over there. Does that make sense?
It makes 100% sense.
Maybe it's a bad idea, but
no, it is not a bad idea. There is an opportunity that exists to monetize resources in the city. And I've been talking with some people, but I don't want to let too much out of the bag.
That's what I'm saying.
There is an opportunity, and
I didn't want any gotchas. I just wanted to have
and it's what's going on right now is we're doing some vetting.
Sure.
Can it be possible? And every indication says yes. It just hasn't been conceived of yet.
Well, when I know you're able to be transparent with it, you will be, and I hold you accountable to that.
I hope you do, because this is a really cool, very, very beneficial to everyone opportunity. Okay. But outside of that, in terms
You'll be a protected resource, just so you know. So anything that you pass me along the way, just so I know the thing's moving along, I'm not going to talk about it until you make it
100%
able to talk about.
Very appreciate that, of that. But there are things that we could be doing right now. And when we bring in everyone, you hit on a really valuable talking point here. When people are talking about the energy deficit, that's a very real thing. I have sat down with the governor, and I've sat down with the Secretary of Energy for the state of Indiana. We've had in-depth conversations about the energy situation in Indiana. So it's been fascinating to see the state perspective and how things are operating. But one of the things that we know that are going to happen here, and one of the desires for Indiana that our state leadership has, is they want to become an AI center of the United States, if not the world. That is something they want to do. We have a lot of resources that allow us to do that. What we need to be 100% focused on is not robbing the populace of energy that's necessary to keep the lights on here at a reasonable rate of return. We cannot be charging $1,000 for a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house for power. That's just not sustainable. What we need to obligate these people, these developers of data centers. You have a responsibility and obligation to create and source your own power, not be pulling from the grid. And if you have enough, let's put it back to the grid and let's monetize it through MISO. Just sell it back.
Or mine Bitcoin.
Or mine Bitcoin.
The other
and put the Bitcoin into the sovereign fund for the city to pay for other things. That's what I'm talking about.
Possible.
The multiple. I mean, anything's possible. The multiplication of it is, it's. I'm not saying Bitcoin is the answer. I mean, I believe Bitcoin is the best option out there in crypto, but that's just me. There's other things out there that could be used in a similar way. So
there's a lot of opportunity out there, and there we should be thinking outside the box. We should be finding the best and brightest people to do strategic research to create these opportunities, or at least bring them to the table for evaluation. That should be happening. A city has the ability to do more than just tax. We have the ability to create opportunity. If we have a sovereign wealth fund of some sort, we can now incentivize businesses to come here. We can truly abate taxes for a span of time. We can help transition fees to bring people in. That's how Austin grew.
I want to get rid of property taxes. Just to be honest
property
with
taxes are very irritating.
You never own your property.
Well, look what DeSantis is doing in Florida.
You never own your property.
He's
that's why people are flooding there.
That's exactly right.
So
the other issue, by the way, not just energy that I've seen, because there are a few documentaries out there, and there's a few things that I've looked into about these data centers.
That's a big cup you have, Travis.
It's a handsome pour.
I've never seen you.
It's my IU Red shirt.
Okay.
IU Red
it.
cup, man.
Right.
Come on, you have it right behind you.
I know.
We're going to be at the Rose Bowl, baby.
That's right.
I love it.
Right.
But water and water pressure are huge things, because there's a couple of things you can see. I don't know if I should really say that. Well, everybody knows Amazon, so it is what it is. But there's some Amazon centers that are causing communities to have energy issues. But the bigger issue is water.
Water pressure.
Water and water pressure. Yeah.
Yeah, you're the second or third person this week to have this conversation with me. We're talking about, the city of Evansville is talking about drilling wells now to subsidize the power deficit or the water deficit. It's an interesting concept. It's probably going to work. What happens to the existing water table when you do that to all of the county people? Do we now have to drill deeper? Has anyone even looked into this? Are we just going to do it and see what happens? This is part of the problem.
Just do it. Let's see
Rob Peter to pay Paul. Rob Peter to pay Paul.
Caution to the wind, baby.
So we have this happen all the time, and it's not a good thing. It's the septic issue all over again. It's the receiving station all over again. We're going to do something without potentially having done a due diligence. And I'd like to think that we're going to do some due diligence here, because it's a big issue. If everyone's wells start to get harder to get water from or go dry, that's going to be a massive problem just to feed the city. And there are county residents who have brought this to my attention. Has anyone thought about this? And you brought it up. Dropped it back in my head, but I have not thought about it, and I haven't done any research on it yet, and I don't know that anyone else has either. But this was a geological engineer that brought this to my attention. He said, this is a real problem. And I came out of the oil and energy space. When you drill a well, and you drill another one and another one and another one, all of a sudden you have to go deeper to get the oil. This makes complete sense to me. Mm-hmm. So the pressure goes down every time you introduce a new well. You have to go deeper to get this. What happens to the water table here? I don't know. I don't know that answer. I don't know that we have sufficient.
Well, I've been put on hold for a long time to talk to an oil and gas guy. I will ask that question to him. Mm-hmm. It was my understanding. It was
an oil and gas guy I know.
Yeah, I'm not going to mention his name yet. I'll tell you when we're done.
Perfect.
So, my dad and my grandmother were actually on different water tables.
Mm-hmm.
And so, what I understand about my grandmother basically had an underground river running almost right under her house. It was the best water you've ever tasted in your entire life. I mean, my mouth waters thinking about
how good it was.
Pumping the well and drinking it.
Gosh,
Oh my God, it's so good. But my dad got on the one that's different, and it's got like a sulfury smell. I don't know if he didn't get deep enough or whatever. He's never had water pressure issues or anything like that. It's just completely different. So it's like an off channel. It wasn't as deep. So, I just only wanted to say that because I don't know if is this the water table? And it's all whatever, or is there different pockets?
There are
like
different
oil
aquifers. They move back and forth, and it's just like it's exactly the same with oil. You drill down here, and there's a pocket of oil here, and there's a pocket of oil here. Sometimes they're different, but they all have an ability to. Water's going to find its level, and so as you start draining it down, it's going to find through the fissures and strata of the rock. It's going to find its lowest level. That's just what it does. So this was brought up, and I have to admit I was kind of caught off guard by it. I didn't think about it. So I want to find out what their research is. I don't want people to suddenly have to re-drill wells.
You mean open, transparent conversation?
Wouldn't that be delightful?
Huh.
I
Interesting.
think this is the core need of the city. I think this is the core need of all government, but in particular, the city. If we created a system, a live, in progress, real world system that started cataloging all of these things, it would answer questions before they were asked. It would become a non-issue. We'd be able to focus on actually doing things that are very important. Or, hey, I need more money in the city budget to do this. And here's why, because look at all the scoreboard here. This is telling me, everything here is telling me this is the next step.
You brought it up like 2 hours ago, and my mind has been just the squirrel in my brain has been.
That's why you have been talking. You've been running around.
I've
on the
been
same
thinking about this, and I've come up with a couple ideas on. But anyway, that's regarding neither here nor there. But
I love it.
I think there's a way you can do that.
Businesses do it all the time.
Well, no, I know, but I mean,
we should have a way of doing this.
Yeah, absolutely.
These are every dollar that we spend here in the city is plugged into an ERP system somewhere. Just let's start matching that up with what we're doing with the money. When we move money through city council, let's talk about where it came from and where it's now going.
Let me have a question. I got a question. We talk about sovereign wealth and funding something that basically turns into a savings account that doesn't debase, that actually has investment and can, if you have a pile of money and you can put it into something and it pays you money and it's building in itself over time, that's what you need to truly be self-sufficient, as it were. And so that's
what they're doing with the rescue dollars that we have. They're sending it off. That's how we started up the new EMS service.
I guess my nuanced question to you that you might not have the answer to, or you might have thought about it, is if we come up with a new program for the city or whatever the program is, we're talking about a new water thing, why would it have to necessarily be owned by the same department? Why wouldn't we potentially, and I'm not calling it a private, I'm calling it a sovereign wealth water well, whatever I want to call it. And so you create something that you can charge for, but that money goes back into the system, which basically turns into your nest egg, which funds what the management piece of it is.
I think there's even a simpler way to do it.
Because then it does. Well, my concern is it just washes into the rest of the budget, and no matter how good that one thing is doing, it's not in a silo. So it just kind of this
is basic asset management. Yeah. So if I have a company and I have multiple assets within that company, so I have a line of business that does this and this and this and this and this, I'm analyzing every single piece of that business, every line of business within my organization to see which one's profitable, which ones aren't, which ones I have to subsidize, which ones I don't. And I'm going to start focusing on the ones that are winning. And so whatever cash reserves are being built up to the winning lines of business, I start allocating pieces of that away so that I can now put that into my war chest for buying a new business or for starting a new line of business or for whatever it is I happen to do. And that should be so completely transparent. And in fact, in a business, lots of entities require that detailed level of reporting to make sure you're not doing something fraudulent. Same thing with the city. We should be doing that. If we have something that's making us money, let's set aside a portion of that for something else. That's our capital fund. We should be very transparent about what we're doing with our capital fund and how we got those dollars, what's winning and what isn't. And when we have something that isn't, let's figure out why it's not winning. And either we make it win, or it's so necessary we have to subsidize it through some of this capital dollars, or we get rid of it. This is not hard stuff. This is just basic common sense. If something in your budget is siphoning off money from you for no good reason, get rid of it, fix it, or subsidize it. Those are your three choices.
Kind of basic business. I think that's why we voted for a business. Yeah, well, but it's why there's a businessman who's currently running our country. Why he got elected, because
that's exactly right.
We see the benefit in having someone who understands how to run a business, run what theoretically is a business.
That's it, and that's all it is. And there are certain guardrails and certain things that come into place because we do operate in a representative government, hopefully. And
Thank you for adding that. I didn't have to jump in on that.
Yeah,
one.
Right. Hopefully we do, but
sometimes we do.
That allows a lot of voices at the table, which can be annoying, right? You want as a business leader, look at what our governor wanted to do. He wanted to come through and revolutionize property tax. He got told no because that's not the way the government works. He had to do something totally different. It's not exactly what he wanted. It's what he had to compromise to. Mm-hmm. That's just how government works. Now, if you go into it understanding that you can't always make that business decision that you want to make, but that you can now understand the system to get the highest benefit possible for your voters, that's great. And then if it still is not what you want, you figure out how to legislatively change it so that you can get what you need. That's it. This is not complicated. It's just as voters, we need to be empowered again and remember that we have the power to start asking questions and hold people accountable. It shouldn't be, oh, well, you can't. How dare you? How dare you have a conversation about this and question the people that you elected to do this work for you? You're paying them. You are paying them. I'm the CEO of a large real estate company. I promise you, I get questions every single day from my shareholders, and I value them because they help keep me aligned as to what the shareholders' goals are. The shareholders in this particular instance are the voters. Mm-hmm. If I can't imagine the moment that I would go to my shareholders and say, how dare you question me? How dare you? That would be my last minute there. I'd be like, how dare you not get your stuff packed up and out of our office today? Yeah. You are here to do a job. And it is a privilege to do that job. It's a privilege to lead companies. It's a privilege to be an elected official. And we've forgotten that. People somehow have this so backwards that we are now required to, without reservation and without question or critical thinking, we are now required to just simply accept whatever it is that they're telling us. Unacceptable. That's totally unacceptable to me. I want every single day, the next thing I run for, the next office that I hold, I expect you to hold me accountable to that. I want you to come in, say, Joe, you said you'd be here every quarter. You're going to be on this podcast. We're going to ask you questions. They're going to be hard. They're not going to be fun. And we want you to you promised us you'd be accountable. I will 100% do that, whatever that is. And that goes for whatever promises I make. There is a level of accountability we have forgotten that we are owed as in representative government.
You mean an actual town hall?
It pisses me off, man. It just pisses me off. We need to remember how powerful we are as a people. Mm-hmm. These people work for us. It is our duty to
again. Our education system does not train that, Joe.
But it's not.
It changes. Well, we're trained to sit down and shut up and let the people in the white coats run everything because they're the smart people. That's the way it is. And just so
be another brick in the wall. Right?
So I know let me tell you, my kids don't think that, but that's very much what gets beaten into their head, especially through public education.
Sure.
And so some of this has, some of it you want it to go back on parents, but some parents are completely disengaged. Some people couldn't care less about a single thing we've talked about tonight.
There are people that I have talked to that during the and even recently, and I love these people. It's a weird thing for me to. I love talking to people. I love listening to their stories. My favorite thing to do is listen to people's stories. I want to know how they got to the place they are, whether they're wildly successful or they're struggling. I want to figure out what brought them to the place and what their stories are. If we don't start listening to people again, we're going to lose it. We're going to lose everything that we've built. And that's the saddest thing, I think, in the entire story. We're disenfranchising people because we've forgotten that they're the most important part of the equation. We have literally forgotten that. We're so busy taking pictures of us doing things that just don't matter at all. Nobody gives a crap about 95% of the things that are happening that we're taking photo ops of. Nobody does. But you know what would be very impactful? Hey, Chad, your school buses are going to run on time. Hey, the water's clean.
Yeah. I'd like to hear that.
I'm working my butt off to get the utility rates down, not just CenterPoint, but also the water utility, because it's broken and we're going to fix it. Hey, guess what? We're under budget. We now have some cash to spend other places. Where should we spend it? And we actually ask questions. We answer questions. We solicit accountability, not just this opaque black box. That would be a wildly different environment. That is the reason I love politics the way I do. I remember my grandmother, God bless her. She was a staunch Democrat. She worked in the Illinois government. Oh my gosh! Whoa. Yes. Some of my favorite stories were hers in late '60s, working in the Illinois Democratic government, working for the Secretary of State. So she would tell me these stories, and she was so proud of what she did, of how hard they worked. And we would sit and we would talk about politics. I was 5, 6, 7 years old, and she impressed into me how important it was to vote from a very, very early age, because you control the leaders. This is how you control your destiny. And that was something that was impressive to me. My parents believed that. My grandmother believed that. It was so much a part of our family's DNA. It was I would have long conversations with her about this. Ideologically, looking back, I would be completely juxtaposed to most of what she was saying. But honestly, now she'd be a Republican.
Yeah.
She would be a Republican.
Democrat
JFK,
of the 60s and 70s would totally be a Republican.
JFK would be a Republican. And he'd be
an extremist.
ostracized.
Yeah, an extremist.
Yes, he'd be ostracized. Yeah. But I loved representative government. I love the opportunity for an individual's voice to matter. And we are doing everything as a society to eliminate that. I think the next elected leader of our city needs to remember that more than anything else. The smallest voice in the room is the most important. The individual is more important than the group. You need to start listening to what these people are going through. You need to remember the DNA of what made the city great. These people are really, really good people, and we've forgotten that. We're so busy, so focused on things that just don't matter, on whatever celebrity political thing we can do. We're so desperate to adhere to whatever ideology our political pulpit is telling us to believe. We've forgotten what actually matters, which is helping the people that were elected us to serve, because we are serving. That's the secret that nobody wants to talk about anymore. Somehow we got it backwards. Somehow we've abdicated our role of these people serve us. It's called public service for a reason. Now it's backwards. We're now serving them. We're not questioning them. We're not directing them as shareholders to do the things that we want them to do. We've forgotten that.
We can't currently. There's not a good way. There's not really a way other than voting, I guess. But I mean,
the very next thing I run for office, I want you to come to my office and I want you to hold me accountable.
Well, yeah.
The very next thing I expect you to do.
You don't have to worry about that, bro.
But try to hold
out of anybody that you're sitting down with, you're going to have that. Be careful what you wish for.
No.
Try to hold the current administration accountable. You can't. There's no way to.
So
they're very insulated.
Here's what I'm going to tell you about you. First of all, you're hard to contain, and it's hard to know where I can take the conversation. which I love. No. So, like, I literally did prepare for this, and really nothing that I prepared is kind of aligning with what we're saying, and I love it. I'll reuse this in another stretch, and I learned a lot.
I'm sure we'll have Joe on again
because you're a financial guy.
Sure.
I don't think most people understand how our government is funded. Mm-hmm. I don't think most people understand where the money goes, how it comes in, what we do with it. And again, I'm not going to put you on the spot, but I know you're aware of a lot of financial tools that are going on out there. Mm-hmm. There's a company out in the hemisphere saying, Strategy, I think is the name of the company, and they have a 10.75 saving cash payout on money. So I did some numbers because we're looking at my dad's potential retirement and looking at what we can do. So I need to vet this, and I'm not wanting personal advice. I'm wanting to, again, look at ways for the city to, if we can have money that is actually making money as opposed to taking money that's just going in as debt, that's obviously huge. We're debt based. That's all we're doing.
Oh, that's how we're doing everything.
So again, you might not be able to answer it properly, but for instance, I ran some numbers. I'm like, Dad, if you put $10,000 into this particular thing, it'll pay you $1,750 per month cash back. Okay, so if we're looking at individual payments to people that work for the government, and let's say whoever it is going to make $100,000 in a year, right? If we do the numbers on what that means, $100,000 a year for whatever, and you get 10.75 back on if you get 10.75% interest on 100K, that's $10,750 back just in interest payment.
Correct.
That's a ridiculous interest rate. I need to find this company.
You need to look into strategy. So he's a strategy CEO. Fong Lee is his name. It was on. I can probably get the podcast. I might have it in my clip. So $250,000 if you put that in at that number, $26,875 per month, and your balance is not shrinking. Okay, so again, we're looking at where does all the money go? What are we doing with it? I have no idea. You know why? Because the government doesn't tell us how the money comes in.
It's a black box in a lot of ways.
So and so I don't understand why that's not 100% transparent. To be honest with you,
I don't either.
If there's a good reason, I'd like to know it.
Tell me a good reason. Tell me one good reason why we wouldn't have.
Well, it's a good reason for the people that control it. I would put it that way, because if they control this money and they can put the money somewhere and siphon off money off of the top, obviously it makes sense.
Have you ever had to go get a business loan?
Fortunately not. I've bootstrapped everything.
That's amazing. When you go and get a business loan, so if I'm going to buy a company, say I'm buying your company, Travis.
I'm selling it to you, baby.
Yeah, whatever it is.
Whatever you want to buy, I'm selling it right now.
I'm going to finance your company.
Okay.
I've got 20%. I'm going to finance the rest. That bank asks me for a document called the sources and uses document. Every inflow and outflow of cash is delineated in detail. They don't give me a dime until I have that.
And that is a model usually.
And then they wrap this up in something called a covenant that says you will abide by all of these rules that we as a financial institution give you, or we're going to call your note.
Yep.
And we'll own your business. Why do we have less oversight as shareholders in our own government than our bank does on a $500,000?
Who dicks that? Who dictates that?
Who dicks that?
Well, I know who gets dicks, but and it's three of them are sitting in this room.
Yeah,
Who
right.
gets reamed on this situation?
Yeah. So I just, again, these are the questions that wake me up in the middle of the night, because, and I didn't used to think at a local level, because again,
I'm in the same boat. I really am, and it is a dereliction of my responsibility as a voter. It really is,
and because of your savvy financially, and Travis also has he's financially savvy. These aren't the things. I'm not looking at it from a how can I go invest in this thing necessarily, which I should. It's
a preferred stock dividend, by the way. It's not just it's just not like a savings interest rate. It's a dividend. So that's a completely different thing.
Right.
So when you said 10.75% interest rate, I was like, wait a minute.
Preferred stock dividend. You're right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Again, I don't claim to be the
well, it makes more sense now, because I was like, I want to go just put my savings account.
So let's just put the number out there. If we're taking money to pay for what you say, $500,000 budget or whatever it is, or $500 million budget, let's start running the math. Why couldn't we get an advance on let's take money and start making money and paying for certain things in a way? And maybe we have to talk to the state level about that. How do we fund these things?
There'll probably be some state, national, and that would be far. There are right now. We have someone in office sitting in the Oval Office, most powerful 400 square feet in the world. That is a business guy. Says, "Bring me a deal. Bring me a deal."
He's a Bitcoin guy.
He'll make it happen.
So
that's all we need. We need to start taking advantage of these things, and we need to start thinking about these.
That's where I would want a mayor. I would want to know how the what is the saying that they say, how the cake is baked, or
Well,
show us where things come in. Show us who
sources and uses,
who we owe.
I prefer cookies, but whatever.
Show us. Should we know what they're doing with that loan money? Should where is it coming from?
Every single dime that is spent, that is ours, and it all is ours, should be accountable to us.
all the way to the top.
From the smallest bill, the smallest cell phone bill, all the way to the largest.
Yeah, so we're talking about two different things.
We're talking about the same thing.
I know it's all connected, but we've always just worried about, well, we get X amount of dollars. This is how much it takes. Okay, where does it come from? Again, what's happening?
Exactly
Where is it landing?
That's exactly
Where
right.
is it landing? And who's controlling? Who makes what? Who's making money off of the money off of our money that is paying for our things? We're going to piss some people off just by having this conversation, and I know that. And I honestly really could care less.
When you start looking into who's making money from the projects that the city has in motion, that is, you just need to start getting hold of the contracts, city contracts. That's all you have to look at. Look at all the government developers. Look at the people who are doing infrastructure work. Look at all these. And I'm a capitalist. I want people to make money. I want this to happen. I do not want to be disadvantaged as a shareholder.
We shouldn't be slaves to it. We shouldn't be slaves to somebody else's money, though. That's where we are.
We need to be a city that can stand on its own. People are always talking about, I hear this all the time. Well, the state, the governor is working against us. The state doesn't want to give us money. Why should the state have to give us money? We are a city with a tax base. We should be able to cover our own nut, and we cannot because we overspend constantly. We constantly overspend.
This is why the founders inspired us to vote with our feet.
That's exactly
like
right.
If the thing that you're working is
Capitalism.
not working, and that's exactly what is happening, but nobody really wants to even admit or talk about that.
The thing that scares big government the most is two things: independent thought, independent spending.
Well-informed people.
That's it. That's it. People don't like that, because once you start thinking critically, and once you start questioning, and once you start changing where you spend your money, it changes everything they can control, and that's not something that anybody likes.
So that's why I'm saying, let's think pie in the sky, and any mayor that could come in and say, I'm going to look at our finances in a different way that no one's ever talked about. And I'm not even saying that I can change things straight away, but it's like the CenterPoint thing. Like everyone would be less concerned about what the next bill looks like, unless you're living paycheck to paycheck purely, if you thought 3 years from now, these renewables are going to make everything much cheaper. And this is the argument that gets in these DAACE Facebook group. They're all belly aching about the coal, Trump expanding the coal thing. I'm like, do you understand? Like, if we didn't have coal right now, you wouldn't have, the lights would not come on.
Do you know what
and they're telling you that they're going to be able to have the lights on, but they haven't proven anywhere that they can run purely on renewables.
It's not possible. It's not a possible technology.
It's just the dumbest argument, because people think this is going to solve our climate issue. I'm like, you have no freaking idea how much of an impact that solar panel and that wind turbine is going to have in the long term to wildlife and habitat.
What a massive carbon deficit a solar panel and a wind turbine are. It will never.
What if it freezes for 3 weeks?
It's not even freezing.
What if
I'm just talking about the cost to manufacture those things?
Yeah, my God,
it's outrageous.
And the materials, and the diesel you have to burn with the crane.
It's all created out of oil.
Everything
is petroleum.
Every single thing is created. I heard a quote, and we talked about this in our very first podcast. If windmills and solar panels could solve the energy crisis, Exxon and BP,
oil companies would be putting them up everywhere.
Have them everywhere.
China wouldn't be shipping them to us.
That's correct.
They wouldn't be buying our coal.
Absolutely correct. We are sitting on top of one of the most rich coal fields that exists in the world, and we give it away. We ship it away, and it's ridiculous. Thank God we have 2 coal plants that are running. And I applaud. I'm a top-down energy guy. The reason I think electric cars are interesting is not because they're electric cars, and not because I think they're going to do anything positive for anything, other than there's going to be a technological advancement from what we learned doesn't work. That's it. That we are now learning what does not work.
The technologies in those machines are amazing.
It's amazing.
The possible autonomy and things.
Oh, it's
absolutely.
It's unbelievable.
But it's not because they're electric. I'm interested too, but it's not just because they're going to save the world or anything.
And the most efficient battery in the world only absorbs 50% of the energy thrown at it. Period. And you know what every single solitary electric vehicle is powered from? Coal or oil.
Yeah. I've seen
videos
of generators running charging stations so that electric cars can
I have
charge their car.
I have a close friend of mine, and I will not use his name. He is a government contractor that ships generators to California to power their EVs because they don't have charging stations to power their EVs.
What's his name?
No. I'll give it to you offline. You'll love
No,
it.
I think that's funny. I've even seen. I saw a guy driving an electric truck who had a generator in his bed that was running, and he had it plugged into his truck while he was driving down the road.
Yes, there are YouTube videos of this, and you're just like, what? What is wrong with it? Now, I think technological innovation is incredible. I think doing things like going space exploration and what Elon Musk envisions for Mars exploration, it is a means to an end to develop better technology. You have this lofty, crazy, insane goal. You have to build technology that doesn't exist to get to it. That technology will inevitably benefit us. Great. Wonderful. Do it. Don't charge me for it. That's not my responsibility. That is the responsibility of a company somewhere to go and blow research and development dollars to figure out what does not work and get rid of the rest.
Yeah, I'll be open to talking about pure solar if they tell us the truth about what's going on with the direct energy concept, and if we can create solar panels and batteries in our own backyard.
I have solar on my house right now, and you know what it does? Creates enough to run about 2 light bulbs.
And you didn't spend a small amount of money on that.
No, I did not. These are not cheap things.
So
but I got a great tax benefit. I got a huge tax incentive.
You were a test dummy. A little bit.
I wanted that tax. I wanted that tax. I wanted that tax benefit.
No, it really wasn't.
But I think the concept of creating your own energy appeals to me.
Yeah,
I like that.
I mean, self-sufficiency.
I like that. Self-sufficiency is what distributed power is a challenge. Modular power in your home, creating what you use for the most part as much as you can. Great.
Did you hear Trump is investing $6 billion in nuclear?
That makes my heart sing. Nuclear is an easy, super clean technology.
Portable micro nuclear, whatever they're called.
We should have this.
I think we talked about it.
We did just on the last one.
Yeah, you can run a submarine that houses 5,000 people, and it doesn't have to hit shore for like 20 years or 30 years or whatever.
We talked about if that data center wants to come in, that data center needs to provide their own their own power,
and give us.
This should be part of the contracts.
Yep.
Yeah.
Do not take any of our power. In fact, any power that you have, put back on the grid. Let's make that work.
So once we got to that where it's net zero or net plus, I think then we can have a real conversation. Like, because there are the key. There are other risks with data centers that I feel need to be vetted. There are things that concern me greatly about
the technology itself is concerning.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot.
But as far as if I'm strictly focusing on energy deficit to the grid, this solves that problem. Put a micro nuclear plant there and put it back to the grid. You're good. You're golden. I don't care. That does not talk about all the technology concerns, all of the all the other things that come along with that. That just is meeting the bare minimum of power deficit. And that's my biggest concern. And I think as local leadership, we should be thinking about those things. We should be focused on those things. What does this actually do for us? What does it actually do for the communities? What does it take away? What does it add? It's a simple math calculus. Here's the benefits. Here's the cons. Where in scale does that land? And if it's not on the pro side, you're not doing it. The end. That's not a hard thing to come up with. It really isn't. And I don't know why people are making it so complex. And I don't know why all of the public decisions we have, and we can go right back to the very unsexy grease trap and scepter receiving station. What's the benefit to the public? Vast. What is the benefit to business? Vast. It costs money to maintain it. Maintain it. The end. Why are we even having a discussion? I don't
Bedtime
understand
story by Joe. No.
Yeah, I mean, this is simple.
Maybe we should change the name of what it is and make it sound sexy. Then people would like it.
The super secret, sexy reclamation facility.
The greasy lube of whatever it all is.
Whatever it is. But I mean, my God, this is just basic core services that thank God we have Justin Elpers that jumped in the line of fire and got an abatement for this. And so we figure out what we're going to do.
He lives just a few houses from us. You know that, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, Justin's a great guy. And thank God we had him look into this because he and Amy Canterbury got involved in this. I think one of the other things we're not talking about And I think what was interesting is the IURC.
Okay.
We just elected some new.
Dude, get
we just got
the frick out of my head. Can you don't show the world, but show. I don't know if this is appropriate to share with the public.
I can't show anything to him that I can't show. That I'm not showing the world.
Okay.
I could pause.
Let me do this in a.
I could pause.
Well, there's nothing outrageous here, and
no, put it up.
So yeah, hang on a second here. Let me get rid of my. Nobody needs to see what's in my notes. How do I get rid of that?
Well, that's a terrible idea.
Can't you just click the image?
I know, Travis. I did that, and it's just. Hang on a second.
What are you doing?
Shush.
Do you know how to use the computer?
Oh my God.
Have you seen one before?
Yeah, that. Now maximize that. There you go. That's
Okay.
What,
So
do you want me to show that?
So the well, it's fine. So whenever I learned who our local candidates were for IURC, I knew one very personally and closely that we don't need to mention. It's or his name, her or his name.
Well, then I'm not going to show it because his name's on top.
I don't care about this one. I'm talking about another person. I know.
Okay, all right.
Another person that put their hat in the ring for that position that didn't get the position. So obviously, you and I had a dialogue with what the IURC appointment may or may not bring. Obviously, I don't have my hopes up to any great regard, but I did reach out to everyone that I could get a hold of locally that was involved, and I asked them the same question. If you get a part of the IURC, will you be able to have regular conversations? Tell us what's going on. Help us better understand why decisions are made, why the way they are, why we are held under the thumb of a monopoly who doesn't even reside in our state anymore. All these different things that are obviously should come to the head, and like whatever the answers are, uncomfortable as they may be, if we just need to change the legislation, so be it. If we need to go all in on nuclear, so be it. What I feel, so Bob Dyke, did I say it right? Okay. I reached out to him. He's the person who won that seat. Governor appointed him for, he's one of 6. Is that right? One of people on the IURC, whatever the number is. But he is the first person to represent our local community because he is, in fact, from our area, correct? Or he lives in our area.
He lives in our area.
But he will, as a part of this new thing, he will have to move or at least partially live.
He'll have to move to, he has to be.
He has to have a residence up there.
Yeah.
It's
an 8 to 5.
He needs to stay there 5 days a week and he can come. Yeah. So
full-time job.
We had some back and forth and it seemed like a nice enough guy. People were, being respectful of him and things that he's done. I don't know him personally and I'm not going to proclaim that he's great or not great. He was very open. I was back and forth. Like, if you get this thing, would you consider having ongoing conversations and informing people down here who are struggling and suffering, blah, 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 about all the things we've talked about with CenterPoint price gouging. So the reality of it is,
oh my,
don't drink it all in one place. So the reality of it is I said, after he got appointed, I said, do you know if there are any restrictions in your new role to stop you from having ongoing podcast discussions? And he said, I cannot talk about any rate cases. So pretty limited. Yeah. So my response was, so still no transparency or accountability for our area. I think that's a pretty fair statement. And so I only say this not to dig on him because it's not, he may go up and fight a good fight for us and do everything that he can do within the constraints of whatever that position does. I know that they have a terrible track record of doing anything positive for us based on the fact that we're getting gouged the way they are. So my hopes are low. I hope, and I wish him the best. I hope that he can go in there and just mix it up and he brings opportunity for us to get better, maybe some competition, whatever it is that he can do. I don't know. And I guess we won't know because he can't talk about it, right? The moral of the story is, for me, I'm tired of looking at the same failed systems without any transparency or accountability. I think we just, as a community, as someone that's leading government in a city and in the counties, need to have conversations about what can we do to get ourselves off the grid. Do we have to stay in a CenterPoint? Can we start small little micro communities where we try a certain energy source over here, a micronuclear from this company, or learn some things and change? Because I don't see, this is one of the things I don't want to see the city fail, but CenterPoint has no incentive to make our prices cheaper.
Absolutely none.
They never will.
They're beholden to their shareholders.
They're beholden to their shareholders. And so, this conversation is going to get a little ugly because I don't think he's going to be able to do anything really for us in any kind of short-term purpose. At least not something for people to look at and say, I can get my hands around this and say, it's going to cost a little bit to invest in a micronuclear, whatever. Or maybe we do need to consider data centers because they will bring in micronuclear and we can pull off of them. Whatever the conversation is, I don't know.
I think there's a lot that you said there that's really
I tend to
valuable.
do that. I stack a lot of things.
No, and I love that.
A lot of words.
He does.
I'm saying a lot of words.
He does.
All the
So
words.
one of the things I love about Chad is he puts a lot of stuff in there and just lets me go. So the first thing is there are a lot of restrictions with the IURC. What you can, what you cannot say. They're basically judges at that point, and they have to be impartial. And the purpose of them is supposed to be.
Does that mean they are impartial?
Well, if I were, if I had been appointed, I would not be impartial whatsoever.
If all their names and financial records prior to getting the job and since getting the job, if it looks like they're only making however much money per year,
$155,000 a year.
yeah, and they're not going up in like Omar stratosphere,
Elon Omar,
making the same amount of money but making millions of dollars,
having multi-million-dollar houses.
That's weird, isn't it?
Yeah, it's shocking how that works. I think they are. First of all, the IURC is an interesting organization. It's a regulatory. It's the governing body of a regulatory state. So when you have people who are supposed to create an environment that's positive for energy companies and fair for energy users, you can't do both.
I've never quite heard it put like that.
But that's the core function.
I don't think most people even think that, though. That they think that they're here fighting for us, and it doesn't really sound like that when you put it the way you put it.
It is not that they're fighting for us. You have to be an impartial judge to create an environment that's allowing the energy company to make money and for the ratepayer to pay a fair price. Fair price is very subjective. Profit is not. We're either making money or we're not. So I'm going to send you something I put together. I worked with and this will be fun to see what you think of this. I put together a plan that I submitted to the governor and to the Secretary of Energy. It's lengthy. It's about 62 pages about some things that we could do. And some of them are possible. Some of them are not. But I'll send it to you so you can just take a look at it. But one of the things that I learned was that the IURC is constrained by impartiality. So they are literally not allowed to advocate for us. It doesn't matter what they say. It doesn't matter what the governor wants them to do. They are literally not allowed to be our advocates. They are an impartial judge as to, is this rate fair enough? Is it gouging or is it fair enough?
And this is a law.
This is governed by the legislature. The legislature creates the rules by which the IURC operates.
The Indiana legislature.
Correct. The real change makers for the IURC are the legislators, or the legislators in a legislature. The governor has to abide by this. He does not have control of the IURC. He appoints people, but the IURC operates through the laws and the guidelines that the legislature provides. So they can only do what they can do. So we can send someone who lives one door away from us right now, and they can't do diddly squat to advantage us. Not at all. There's no representation. It is a fiction to believe that they represent us in any way at all.
So they
don't have the power to.
We need to figure out a way to mob rule the legislators and force them to change the law.
Yeah, Saladay is the guy. He is a very powerful. Ed Saladay is a very.
I was going to ask you about doxing. But I'm not going to bring it up right here. I'm not going to bring it up here, but I just want you to know, like, people like that who hold all of us.
This goes back to the basic tenet. We can take these people out of office. We can fire them. We just have to be educated as to why we need to get rid of them. We have every
and you need
4
to
to 2
organize
years.
people and let them understand that
Correct.
he is like you just told me that name for the first time and I've never heard it. Why wouldn't the governor even be putting his intelligent people in marketing and PR saying, if you want cheaper rates, here's the pressure that we need to apply. Like if he really is looking out for our best interest, I know someone directly related to him that spends a lot of time behind the window with him. And why are we not having this conversation? So, honestly,
because these people who have been entrenched in state government, they're very powerful. They have lots of influence. To rock their boat is to anger them. And that's not something, and they represent a lot of interests that give money. I think one of the most beneficial things we could do is say, if you're a publicly regulated utility, you cannot give money at all to any campaign, period. The end.
That would be a national.
That could be a state level.
Okay.
You could do it at a state level. And that is a huge motivator. If all of a sudden they lose all financial influence over you, now you can actually make decisions that benefit the electorate. And that would be a critical change that would change everything.
That's why a Doge level of Indiana would be like what not. We're not going to call it Doge because that's a bad word.
Apparently.
But basically,
Start wiping poo on your car.
the platform that keeps government officials accountable.
It would be very, very nice to see people represent. It would be very nice to see people represent the people that elected them. Ed Soliday is out of Valparaiso. He literally told in an open recorded session that he thought the rates were reasonable, although he had no idea what he's paying. He's going to have to ask his wife. That is a recorded fact.
And north of here are probably more reasonable. Most people that I've talked to, I know it's not great, but I literally talked to people in Gibson County
That are better.
who so the one I play golf with regularly, he has like a 1,500 square foot home, and his utility bills are well under $200 a month.
Yeah.
And so like ours are not.
No,
At that,
they're not.
anywhere close to that.
But you have to remember, why are our bills? So it's a complicated issue. So we have several things going on with our rates. And this is where there's a lot of confusion. Our rates are not the highest in the state. Shockingly, they're not. What we have are things called riders and trackers. And we have an enormous debt load that we're servicing. And that debt load covers things like all these renewable projects, all these other things that are tacked in, the decommissioning of the A.B. Brown power plant that Obama required through regulation, and the attack on coal that he had. There's roughly $500 million of debt we're servicing with roughly 250,000 users in CenterPoint, maybe less. That debt is extremely expensive. Now, factor in that there's interest on that debt. We're not even making a dent. We're not even close. So then look at the fact that we are operating a 40 to 60% deficit. So when we have a really hot month, or we have a really, really cold month, we're now operating an energy deficit. So that energy deficit requires us to going out to the MISO grid to buy energy at spot price, which means we're buying at the highest possible amount of money we can possibly spend to subsidize our energy deficit that we should never have had to begin with. And then we have 3 months to pay it back. So all of a sudden they're like, well, it's a warm month. Why am I getting this power bill? Because you've got 3 months to pay it back. That's written right into the IURC code. That's every rate increase. And we're getting ready to have another rate increase in 2026, which is the exact same amount that we had in 2025 that everyone's hair was.
Oh, just $30?
Yeah, just $30.
No,
or thousands of dollars.
It was
so
the $30 that my bill was supposed to increase sure went more than $30.
So when we have these issues and we have representatives that have no idea what they even pay in their power bill, that's a problem. And we have people that Mike D is going up there. He's going to be he's going to be one of the most hated people in our area because he has no ability to change anything. He can't even talk about it. He can't even talk about it.
That's crazy.
So
what's the point at that point?
Well,
what is the point?
So I'll try to shield for him if that's the case.
Which I like him. He's a great guy.
I didn't hear a negative thing.
No.
I didn't hear a negative thing. But I did see some photo ops and, oh, it's going to be great. And so you're making false promises and false hope. And that's going to backfire locally just because I think they overestimate what it's actually going to bring to our...
The problem is they don't know.
Yeah.
They have no idea how it works.
You know how you would know? You would ask the question like I just did. I mean,
of someone who has actually done the work, who's done this.
It's weird. It's a weird concept.
Crazy.
Weird.
You know what's amazing is there is a group where CenterPoint is headquartered. I don't know how many people know this, but CenterPoint's headquartered in Texas. In Austin, the Austin mayor watched his people go through a $50 million increase, or roughly somewhere there and abouts. They lost their mind. They lost their mind. That whole administration lost their mind. They're like, unacceptable. Absolutely unacceptable. They went and petitioned the governor over and over and over and over again. They created all this documentation, all these case studies. They got a $50 million a year reduction in their pricing for CenterPoint because they challenged the rates.
But Joe, our mayors can't do anything.
Yeah, our mayors can't do. But wait, here's the real kicker. That exact same year, guess who got a $50 million increase in CenterPoint bills?
Somebody eats
Us.
that. Oh yeah,
us. We absorbed $50 million because CenterPoint can't have a loss. That is a mathematical fact. That happened.
Are you trying to make me mad?
Oh, well, just
because I sound like I'm not mad right now.
Just imagine someone who actually has worked in the energy industry, who's played these games and knows exactly how it's done. And when I begged people, please do these things. This is how they did it. They will take your call. Please do it. And they didn't do it. And then we had our increase. And
but we were told, Joe, that there was nothing that could be done.
Yeah, nothing, absolutely nothing.
It's
you
all
got the mayor of Boston single-handedly created a $50 million decrease.
I wonder if anybody has said that on a podcast. I haven't even heard that.
Well, they just did. And this is
remind me to clip this particular one because I'm pretty sure if I put Austin in a hashtag and talk about energy and connect it to Evansville, that'd be a pretty cool thing.
And they'll probably call you because these people are proud of what they did. They're so proud of what they did.
They might call me, but I'm going to send them to you.
Yeah, you should. You should.
How do we do this? Well, let's do it.
They will tell you exactly how they did it. And it's almost like I had a 5-point plan based on exactly what they did and gave it to the mayor here. But
interesting. It just fell on deaf ears or fell on unwilling ears?
I don't know what the issue was there. I know that I wish it had happened, and I knew that this would come up, and I knew that this rate increase. This all stems from what I know. Every single thing that I think about, or everything I talk about, everything I'm passionate about comes from an experience. I'm a very experiential person. When I ran for city council, I met all sorts of people all across my ward. I talked to almost 3,000 people. I walked and knocked on doors. And some of these doors were Democrats. They were lifelong Democrats. And I had amazing times with these people, sharing time and learning their stories and understanding who and what they were. And this elderly couple wound up talking to them. They'd never voted Republican in their entire life. By the time we were done, they said, put your sign in my yard. And it was a really wonderful moment. These people were on a fixed income. He was a union guy, lived his entire life doing amazing things, helping out everyone in his family. Wife is lovely. Fast forward to when the ice storm happened a couple of years ago. I'm dropping off my wife at work. Ice storm was awful. I have a big truck. I want to make sure she got to work okay. I'm coming back, and I see these guys in one of the city parks, and I recognize them. I'm like, oh my gosh, let me figure out what's going on. They're very outdoorsy people. I assume they were just clearing off a path so that people could walk or whatever it was they wanted to do, because they're very outdoorsy people. Very cool. Very, very cool people. So I show up, and they've got the trunk of their vehicle open, and I'm trying to figure out what they're doing, and nothing made sense. And I'm an inquisitive, curious person, so I said, let me help you clear these branches off, and I'm watching them snap them across their knee and put them in the back of their truck. And I'm trying to figure this out. I'm like, why don't I just push them to the side of the road? I don't understand any of this. And then I realized, are you guys out of power? I've got a generator. Let me bring it to your house. We'll get the refrigerator going.
They were doing it for sticks to burn?
They were doing it for sticks to burn.
Oh, wow.
They're on fixed income. And I said, guys, what's going on? What's happening? Why do you need this? Do you not have power at your house? I'll bring a generator. So no, we have power. We just can't afford CenterPoint and our medication at the same month.
Ugh.
I literally lost my mind. I lost my mind. I could not see straight. I was so mad and so upset and so hurt. I was emotional. I brought them firewood. They refused it. I had it delivered anyway so they could have heat.
I'm not going to try to ride in on your coattails, but that story, along with me and Travis and Roy breaking down Pharma every time, I think you and I together at that moment, I'm like, let's talk about pharma too.
Yeah, right.
Well, no, 100%. But they're paying for all these medicines, and they're trying to figure out on a fixed income how they're going to pay for their CenterPoint bill.
Jeez.
This is outrageous. These people have done amazing things in their lives. Their story's unbelievable. And here they are breaking sticks up in one of our city parks to burn in their fireplace so they have heat and medication at the same time. That is unacceptable to me.
Yeah.
We don't exist in a city that's impoverished. We exist in a city that is unaffordable because we have an affordability crisis. We are subsidizing mediocrity. We're not trying to find a way to make everything more affordable for people.
I think we could probably
Huge
do
problem.
a podcast every night for 2 hours. Like, how long are we in, Trev?
254. Excuse me.
We're almost almost 3 hours. Yeah. And just for the record, I've shared one clip.
Oh my God!
And I have a whole load of things. So everything that we've said is based on your research. The things that we've talked about, a lot of it's based on your knowledge and research that you bring to the table. But I'd like to open up for anyone that wants to say this isn't right.
Yes, please. Absolutely.
Whatever the thing is, this is 100%. Why this didn't happen. This is the kind of conversation that we need to have very regularly on all issues. And if you're signed up or you're wanting to become a politician, you have to understand that this is part of the duty, is to be accountable to what's going on. I'm not blaming any person that's your fault, but if you ignore it and you sweep it under the rug and you just don't want people to talk about it, there's implications that go along with that. You're then go to, why are you not mad? Mm-hmm. Why are you not mad about this? Why are you not looking out for my tax dollars and trying to do these things? And if you're not up to the task, please tell me that.
And we can make adjustments.
We can make adjustments.
One of the most amazing things I tell this story frequently because it's powerful to me. So my opponent in my city council race, Zach Hieronymus, he was head of Aurora. It's a non-profit for homeless, and he's now over the land bank, or I'm sorry, not land bank, food bank. So
Evansville Food Bank?
Yes.
Okay.
Evansville Food Bank.
I think it's Tri-State Food Bank.
Tri-State.
There you go.
Yeah. Whichever.
Yeah, it's a food bank.
Thanks, Travis.
Food bank. It's a bank of food.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure.
So,
I'm pretty sure 100 Guys Who Care, we've given them money.
Yeah,
yes.
we have. Yes, we have actually given them money.
I think it's a phenomenal organization. I love it. So I called him about a year ago. I work in real estate. One of my agents had to serve an eviction to a downtown urban core resident. It was very unfortunate. It was in the freezing cold. I've got a passion for people being out in the cold. I called Zach, my opponent. He took my call. He did everything humanly possible to help this person. That's what it's supposed to be about. It doesn't matter if you're a Democrat or Republican. He stepped in. He personally went to this residence to try and help this person. He did everything possible. I applaud him for that. I celebrate that. I tell a story all the time. I called him on his cell phone. He took my call, his opponent, and tried to help this person. I don't think any person in city leadership, state leadership, national leadership, and I know some of them, are doing things that they think are intentionally subversive, or I hope they're not. I know that our city leaders in particular are trying the best that they can.
Probably very overwhelmed.
I think they are. I really think they are. These people are doing the things that they think will
the best they can is
and
probably
the best
word.
they can.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean it's the best for the city.
Right.
I think looking back at people who are willing, and he and I had a conversation with several about this actually, where I said, Zach, this is keeping me up at night. He said, Joe, this keeps me up every night. And that was a realization. I couldn't believe it. It literally opened my mind as to he is doing everything he can to serve the public in the best way he can. I don't ever want to demonize a human. That's never my intention. No. These people are doing the best that they can. That doesn't mean it's the best for the city.
Sometimes a person's best is just not good enough.
Sometimes it is.
And that's why it's meritocracy, and that's why
it's a meritocracy. Yeah. And by the way, my version doesn't necessarily mean it's the right version. It means it is a way of getting something done. I am a very fact-based, logic-based human. 2 + 2 = 4. Period.
Really?
The end.
That's not what
the
I've
end of it.
learned in the last 10 years.
Right?
Looking
So-
at my kids'
right.
math homework.
But that's the end of it. I want to go to the next thing to solve the next problem and the
Right.
next problem after that. A lot of times there's an empathy component that I miss in that kind of a logic-based environment. People like that people who are emotionally based have to exist to counter people like me.
To counter your Sheldon Cooper.
Right. 100%. But that being said,
Nice reference, Trav.
Those
You haven't said a
people-
lot. That's pretty good.
Do what I can.
right, those people need to be in a nonprofit space that are helping everyone. That's not who runs businesses necessarily. That's not who is making the hard decisions we're taking money away from this to give it to this because it's a basic core city function that benefits the mass. It's a very utilitarian view. I value everyone who's doing the best that they can. I really do. I think
Just in the wrong role, maybe.
it's the wrong seat in the bus.
With the right,
Maybe it's the wrong seat in the bus.
With the right intentions.
Yes.
And that's all great. And
I just never want to criticize a human.
No.
I look at the problem, the policy or the problem that's creating pain.
yeah, there's some local people that that get into word wars like that and call people names and
That'll never be me. That's
Incite,
never gonna be me.
pull people into conversations that have no. It just distracts and divides people. And part of the Unite the Divided for me is bringing people together to solve problems. And
That's exactly
I don't
the
care what you're. I don't care. I want to know that we've got the right person that's trying to do the right things at the right time.
This is why I respect what you guys do here. I don't care.
It's all Travis.
It's all me.
Thank you, Travis.
It's all
Thank you,
Trav. It's all Trav. I don't care who you love. I don't care what you do in your home, as long as you're not hurting anyone.
Don't sell it to my kids.
And don't sell stuff. I don't care. I do not care. That's not the government's responsibility. The government's responsibility is to provide basic human services for the community to provide opportunity. The end.
Yeah.
That's where it stops. That's where it stops. Some of the greatest people that I've ever met have very different views on life and very different views on politics. And they are near and dear to my heart in ways I can't explain. These people are some of the greatest people I know. They would not be good business leaders,
Right.
but they're great humans.
Right.
So I that's what I would say. I don't ever want anyone to
Amen.
think that I'm picking on people.
No.
Ever. Not ever.
No, but it does come to the point where you have to have able-bodied people doing the job, and again, not a personal attack in any capacity. To be honest with you, being a mayor of any town would not be my strongest suit. I'm for
Mayor
some
or
reason
governor or anything like
for
that.
some reason I was born with the knack of wanting to have conversations with people, wanting to get to the root of truth, calling it like I see it. And if I don't agree, I will say I don't agree. And I enjoy that. Like I spent hours today prepping for clicks and clips that you guys didn't get to see because Joe can't.
And he's not heard about it at all.
Joe just can't.
He
stop
is not
talking.
butthurt about it at all.
He can't quit talking about cool things that I didn't even envision we talked about.
I'm glad Chad's not upset about it.
I'm not. I'm a little resentment. There's some resentment, but I'll be over it by the time we leave this room. I always enjoy our conversations, and we need to figure out a way to get you back. I told you I'm aligning with a couple different people with some podcast ideas. I think we could expand the conversation and expand the ideas that we're trying to, because I feel like the ideas that we've shared tonight are good, but I think they could be better with other people's input and feedback.
That's how great ideas come to fruition. It's not about doing something in a silo, and it's not about being a celebrity. It's about sourcing a great idea and making it better by finding people who challenge it every single
every
way
idea that
possible.
we've talked about is a seed from another idea or something.
100%,
With no true original thought.
And this is why I love what you guys are doing here. You guys are very open-minded. Both of you are so
I love that you keep
open-minded.
patting us.
No.
I'm feeling all the
But
love.
seriously,
Here, show, Travis, can you put us both patting ourselves on the back?
Here we go. All right.
Keep going. More. Say more about us.
Say more.
Self-flagellation. No.
But truly, you guys bring people on from. You had Noah on. He's a completely
God
different.
bless him for coming on.
Oh,
and
I can't celebrate that enough. I texted him and said you did a great job on that podcast.
He's going to have a bourbon next time, or whatever he wants.
Oh,
to drink.
100%.
He has to be out of uniform.
Yeah, it was a little.
Yeah, I
stiff.
can't have that.
No duty belt.
He doesn't fit with all the.
I love that he showed up in a
gun-
uniform. I love it. I love it. Next time I'm going to show up in my uniform.
My wife was worried. He's like, what are they going to think that the sheriffs have been outside of our, sheriff's car's been outside of our house for 3 hours?
Did he drive the squad in? I love it.
I think
I think he was. I think
he was.
So awesome. I love it. Noah is a great guy. He's got a huge heart for people. But I love that you bring different perspectives on. And that's what dialogue is about. That's what challenging ideas is about. And I would not be back. I would not participate in this if it was just in a vacuum. I don't want, and this is something that I want in business too. I don't want people to just say, "Oh, you're doing a great job. Awesome. Great idea." No, I want you to say, "No, that's a terrible idea. And here's
awful.
why. Stop talking about this because it's a terrible idea." I want people to constantly bang it up and create the best opportunity. One of my favorite people, and he's so controversial, and he was not entirely well liked. Steve Jobs talked about how he made decisions. And this is one of the things that was so fascinating to me. He said he would, and people would talk about him after his death, after his past, they would talk about how he acted like he was totally disinterested in every conversation, in every boardroom or every meeting he was ever in. You'd see him messing with stuff. See him totally distracted.
Fidgeting or whatever.
Fidgeting. Yeah. He wasn't at all. He was letting the room make a decision, and he would come to wait till they got to whatever the best opportunity. He said, and this is something I found was fascinating. He said, "How I make a decision is I bring the strongest voices and the biggest assholes into a room, and I throw an idea into it, and I just I sit back and let and see what happens."
I loved Steve Jobs, by the way.
Oh, he was amazing human.
Absolutely.
He was an innovator, and the reason he was so innovative is because he brought the strongest voices of opposition to a room, and whatever survived and made it outside the door, that's the right decision.
Well, he listened to Henry Ford, who said it was, if I'm the smartest person in the room, I'm in the wrong room.
In the wrong.
Like I'm definitely in the wrong room.
So this goes back to my conversation very early on when my dad would say that. I was like, "Man, that's so brilliant. Brilliant. God, that's
Now
so
talk
brilliant."
to me about the Romans, Dad.
Yeah,
Why are neither of you guys leaving right now?
I don't know what's happening. But yeah, that's what great decisions. That's how great decisions and great things happen. Is you are not afraid to have it be challenged by every strong voice and every strong mind in the room, and you invite them in.
That's all I want to do with United Divided at the local level.
This is why I love this. This is why I love this group.
Is put people that are willing to have their ideas challenged and to be passionate about the end goal, which I think if you put any 10 people in a room, we will agree on the same things, what we want as an end goal. We will probably agree on nothing about how we will get to that at first blush. We're not going to step into a room and say,
I don't know. I bet I could give you 3 things that I bet you'd agree on 2.
Here's the way we're going to do it. Here's the way we're going to do it. You need to 100% agree. No. And there's going to be nuances in there that
if you agree 70% of whatever idea I say, it's a win.
Yeah.
Because the 30% you bring to the table is going to be amazing.
So we drop
100%.
We drop the right left divide stuff. We don't talk about what this political figure or this right leaning or left leaning person. I want every issue that we're talking about topically, and that's why the conversation with Noah worked out to me, because we do strongly align on a few things. Now, we probably are not aligned on a lot of things, in really anyway, maybe. But he is. I commend him for he was this open conversation. He was like you. He didn't say there's nothing off the table. He didn't say, well, I can't really talk about it. I mean, he did gloss over a few things that we'll have to come back and talk about later. But that's all part of the deal. And when you're a politician, and he is, and anybody that gets elected is a politician. There are things that you may want to. You want to skip over a little bit, and I know that he will be prepared and come back ready to answer that same question that I ask him next time, which is all we need. That is absolutely all we need. So we've been in this almost 3 hours.
We're over 3 hours now. But if you're not rooting for Indiana in the Rose Bowl, you're wrong.
Yeah.
You were talking about not dividing, but if you're not rooting for Indiana in the Rose Bowl,
don't
you're
watch
wrong.
the podcast. If you're rooting against Indiana, don't watch the podcast
You're
ever
done.
again.
You're out. You're cut off.
Just kidding.
No
Just kidding.
more.
I think one of the people that donates to us monthly is not an IU fan, so I never mind. Just ignore what I just said. I'm going to try to end this podcast on a couple humorous things. We have some giggles and laughs, and there's a couple things that we're just going to circle back just to get a little bit of a chuckle. And I'm sharing other people's content, which is I worked so hard and painfully to do today, only to share some jokes. That's all.
I love it so much.
So Joe, I want to formally invite you.
I'm glad you're not upset about it.
I'm just a little bit. I'm a little butthurt.
Yeah, you're a little butthurt. The resentment is still there. There's still some there.
I'm trying to rub in some little pain points.
You're going to need some hemorrhoid cream. You're so upset about it.
So, Joe, we talked about 100 Guys Who Care a little bit. I do strongly recommend you and everyone else that's a dude.
The next event
in the
I'm
city,
there.
February 17th. February 17th. This coming year actually is my son's 21st birthday.
Hey.
And so I'm going to sacrifice some time with him potentially, even though he's probably going to want to be out with his friends. Don't care about dad. But join us. I believe what's the City View, I think is where it is. And go to Facebook, 100 Guys Who Care, and you'll find where I'm pretty sure it's City View, 5 o'clock on February 17th.
I've heard nothing but good things.
Oh, I mean, we write $10,000 checks to nonprofits, and we don't have an organization. We don't have a checking account. We don't hold your money. You come in, you listen to 3 nonprofits, and you vote. And whoever gets the most votes gets 10 grand. And
done.
Yep.
I'm there next time.
City View at Sterling Square.
Field and Main Bank gives $500 to the second and third placers, so nobody goes home empty-handed.
Do we know the 3 people that are going to be?
I have.
eligible?
I didn't prepare for that. It's go to Facebook, and Travis might get there before we get off because I'm gonna we're not in a rush. Travis, find that. I'm gonna watch this first clip, which is a clean clip.
I love the warning that it's clean.
So everybody that makes New Year's resolutions, and me and my wife have agreed to do dry January, which is why I've been drinking bourbon since we
Nonstop.
Not nonstop.
That's why you're a drunkard.
Don't lie to me.
No, it's 100% true.
It was more in the second to third hour. It
was the third hour. It was a solid third.
It was so not the whole time. So this first one is kind of a comedic skit on that, and Travis will have to let me know when he can. It's going to take me a second. It's the Facebook clip that always messes things up.
You know, I don't know that we have.
It's on the Facebook
who
page.
the 3 are.
It should have been. I can maybe go find it if I have time. Since I've heard this funny little clip. This is a short one. I don't know if I'll be able to find it in that amount of time. Actually, I think I will. Let's listen to the clip. I'll just have to remember which message I got. Here, hang on a second. Ready?
Wasted. But I'm dealing with it.
Like getting sober?
Yes.
Well, I mean, Buffalo sober.
Buffalo sober?
Just beer and wine.
Just beer
And then some of the lighter liquors.
So the lighter ones, the clear ones.
I'm proud of you.
I'm proud of you. You're good.
Oh my gosh.
Way to go, Mr. Zahn.
That was a funny one, and it was not long enough for me to figure out who the.
The website even says the 3 nonprofits that will be attending in the meeting are coming soon.
Okay, so
I mean,
that's on me. I got to update the website.
I mean,
but it should have been on Facebook, honestly.
no, it just says the Q1 meeting at Sterling or at City View at Sterling Square. Then it says.
Okay, I'm in the right thread here. Bear with us. Sorry. It should have been.
I don't see it anywhere. I have the SMS system too. If we need to use that for this, FYI.
Well, here we go. So top 3 for the next meeting are Sleep in Heavenly Peace. Pretty sure that they've already won a few years ago. They won handily. I don't know if this is the proper name, but Cops Who Care.
Okay. Yep.
I don't know if I know there's another organization that's ran by some cops, and the name doesn't strike me right. And the other one is Change for Tomorrow.
I don't know what Change for Tomorrow is. Obviously, I'm going to be pretty partial to the Cops Who Care.
Yeah. So
They already have my vote. I don't care what's said.
Here's
Here's
what I'll tell you, Joe. And for anyone that comes for the first time or many times, you come in with a preconceived idea of who you're going to vote for because of what you believe. And once they get up and they talk and they tell you their story and where they give the money, my mind changes almost every time. I never really go in and end up voting for.
You know
Love
what?
it.
I don't hold this against anybody, but Joe, just so you know, if you want to win that $10,000, do something with kids. If you do something with kids,
100%.
you're going to win.
Yeah, we're talking about doing
It's just ridiculous.
If kids are involved, you're going.
We're talking about doing an extra quarterly event, so a 5th event. that's just on animals, because we have so many great animal things, and everyone who doesn't love an animal, who doesn't want to give them money. But like if you're looking at $10,000 to take a kid off the street, or taking, which is terrible, or $10,000 to not euthanizing a dog, also terrible. But you're just in that pendulum of there is no good answer, but we're gonna vote for the kid, But we want to do a 5th event, and I think we might involve some 100 women who care. That's
awesome.
That's kind of on the horizon. Looking for also women who are interested in doing that and being participating in that. We're looking for some leadership there, so reach out to us. Sorry, this turned into 100 guys who care promotional.
You're plugging the hell out of it.
Oh, I love it. That's fantastic.
So if you're with your child right now, we're getting ready to show the last clip, which is a little humorous before we launch off today, is with Jimmy Carr, who is we listened to a short clip of him. He was talking about sovereign wealth. So I thought this was a pretty good summary. Like, his humor is very interesting. I just love it. But this is a communism clip, so it's anti-communist, which is something that we're talking about. We will be talking about a lot moving forward, just because of the way AI is changing things in the world. So hopefully this sounds.
Ticketmaster. What do I think about Ticketmaster? I like them. What's not to like about Ticketmaster?
As a purchaser?
As a purchaser? Yeah, you cannot go to the show.
I love this guy.
I always think Ticketmaster always get given a hard time. People going, it was £400 to see Taylor Swift. Well, don't go.
I wanted to come see you.
You wanted to come see me? It looks like you did great. I don't know, you might object to capitalism, and Ticketmaster are a very good example of the capitalist market. And capitalism is a terrible system, apart from all the fucking others. A bunch of young people seem to have fallen in love with communism again. The fuck is going... Communism's a great idea, wrong species. The thing about capitalism is it kind of leans into what we are. We're quite self-interested. It works. What's your name?
My name's Sam.
What do you do, Sam?
Define communism for me.
Define communism from each according to their abilities to each according to their needs.
Nice.
Yeah. It just doesn't scale. Everyone is a communist. All of you are communists with your family. If you've got kids, you're a fucking communist at home. Each according to their needs, you take care of them. Of course you do. And as things get wide in your local community, you might be a socialist. Try and help everyone out. And then you get up to nation state level and you go, yeah, fuck those guys.
I love it.
There's always going to be an in-group preference. I'm sorry, but you're human beings, unlucky. The problem with American communism, which is, woke, is better described as American Marxism. And what it is instead of trying to redistribute wealth, which is a perfectly reasonable thing to want to do, they want to redistribute status. And that is a recipe for fucking madness. Hang on. So, some young men looking at me like, yeah, great. We're going to need some dick jokes. No problem. I'm on it. Don't think I'm not on it, fellas. I'm going to say some very offensive things in a bit. What do I think about what?
This guy is awesome. I love this guy.
I follow him on YouTube and on Facebook, and smart. Like he hits in the things that we talk about, and he evolves in the conversation. What he did, oh man, he's just amazing. But I want to say Happy New Year to you guys.
Well, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year in a couple of days.
Thanks for being flexible. Last week we did a last minute. Our wives didn't want us to podcast kind of moment last week. Travis didn't have the.
I chalked that up to technical difficulties.
Yeah, whatever. No, we're truthful here.
See, I told him.
Travis gave me some guilt. Travis gave me.
My wife doesn't want this, but I mean, I'll do whatever we need to do.
And then my wife had already been saying the same thing, so I'm like, my thing is like, I am dedicated to putting out content. I'm dedicated to what we're trying to accomplish. Unite, divided. At the end of the day, as Jimmy Carr kind of hits, we're all communists at home, and what our wives want, what our kids need comes ahead.
Right.
Comes
exactly right.
comes ahead of everything. And I just appreciate your flexibility. I always appreciate your willingness to just dive into anything. and we need more people who want to lead, that are willing to take critical feedback, to work with people that they don't always align with on every topic, similar to what Noah did by coming on and agreeing and disagreeing on some things.
Which I
commend him.
text him. I commend him for that. That is such an amazing thing that he did.
Yeah.
I think that it speaks to his character and his leadership. I think it's just awesome.
Well, until another sheriff that wants to challenge him comes on and changes my mind about him.
Yeah.
I haven't voted for a Democrat in a very long time.
I know.
And so he may very well win my vote. And so that's what it's about. I mean, you have to listen to the person. What are they saying? He's very opposed to something I'm very opposed to. And it's almost a thing that's a singular issue for me, like tech surveillance and we're not going to get into it because we don't have the time to get into it tonight. The next podcast,
we're already at like 3:20. Might as well make it 4:20.
You know what's amazing to me?
Your kid doesn't have to go to school tomorrow,
right? No,
we're not
not at all.
We're not
no, he's on Christmas break.
There's no school right now. So
what's amazing to me about Noah is I can text him right now, and within minutes he will respond.
Oh, we should have done that in the beginning.
Oh, wait.
Who would have answered first?
But here's the thing. Here's the thing about him. He will legitimately get invested, and there have been issues where I have contacted him, and he has done everything he can to help. That and
that's fantastic.
Phil Smith, our chief of police in Evansville, same exact thing.
And they're both dealing with some very difficult,
my gosh, they the things that they have to deal with every day,
recruiting and all this stuff.
Well, not only that, but just that's just normal job stuff.
Yeah.
When you start dealing with the populace, and you start dealing with horrible issues that most people cannot even imagine, and they deal with it every day because they're called to it.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter ideologically, from a political standpoint, we may be very different, but his heart is in the right place. Yeah. And I am thankful that we have someone that is willing to do that work. I'm thankful for Phil as well. And these people are, and that goes for all of law enforcement. That goes for these guys who are legitimately going out and doing these horrible things.
You're a person on the right. You're not supposed to be patting them on the back. That's not what our political system's about, buddy.
Here's the thing. You and I have had these conversations. It does not matter. D-R-I, and I do not care what the letter in front of their name is. I care about where their heart is. I guarantee you, Noah and I can have a spirited debate about where we stand ideologically. But if I call him, if I text him, that guy, his heart is in the right place. He will text me back and he will help these people. And I can tell you right now, he has done things. He's gotten in the way of tragedy because I've asked him to. That speaks volumes to me.
I've had many great conversations. Phil is
Phil is amazing.
He's an amazing human.
He's going through a lot of stuff.
Can't even imagine
the world that he exists in.
We had talked about the officer involved shooting.
Yes,
and I mentioned doxing just in a hand. Like the one thing that really bothered me is the officer being doxed to me. I have my own opinion.
Totally unacceptable.
I don't like it at all.
No,
I would be openly critical of whoever decided that was a decent idea or a good idea.
Nope.
I just think it's a terrible idea.
It's a terrible idea. This poor human has had to deal with. So I'm going to.
You have no more time.
I have no more time.
No, give it to him. Give it to him.
But I'm going to tell you, when in these horrible situations where an officer has to make a decision, and it ends in
life and death
decision, and it ends in the ending of a life. That is the worst moment in this person's life.
Sure.
Period. That
and the family's life, and his life for sure too.
Yes, but it doesn't just affect him as an officer; it affects his entire family.
Sure.
This guy's going back home after having taken a life. It does not matter what's going on. It is a horrible thing. The person who died's family is now affected.
Well, even if
he's
you
affected,
know, even if you know you did the right thing in the moment, it's going to eat at you every single day for the
Could I have done more? Could I have waited a second longer? What would have happened if this happened? That is that horrible moment that changes your entire life forever. Forever. You have now taken a life, regardless of the circumstances. He has to live with that. So we put him in a position where now, him, her, whatever, now they are subject to public criticism, people who have no understanding of the law, because they don't have to. People who have no understanding of the circumstances because they don't have to. In an unimaginable nanosecond by nanosecond decision that resulted in the worst possible outcome. This person is now dealing with this. What do you think that does to him emotionally? What do you think that does to his family emotionally? And now they have to worry about their own safety as a result of this. It is an insane decision that led us to the place where that this person has to make these.
Well, and I mean, we're just talking about how hard it is to recruit talented people, and you have something like this happen, and someone's life is thrown out in front of everyone, their family is thrown out in front of everyone. Like, how much money could that cop make to make that risk worth
Zero
if they're put into that position?
Not even close.
So it's so counterintuitive to me to publicly dock someone, especially before an investigation. Any conclusion can be made. Like, you're being judged by the court of public opinion. They see a video, they think they know better because you should have given them 0.4 or 3 more seconds worth of time. Like, you're not trained as a cop to understand that the threat of someone pulling a gun on you, shooting you, is you're supposed to shoot them first.
You have
no time.
A very specific set of responsibilities as a police officer. You are to protect the public and yourself. The end. Now, we have, and this is something I talk about all the time. I had a really wonderful conversation with a community leader a couple of weeks ago. It was amazing. I can tell you it was a perspective that I value enormously. This gentleman is a fantastic community leader. He's amazing. He lent me perspective that I did not have. And I think I gave him perspective as a police officer because he specifically asked me, what would you have done differently? And I don't know that I would have done anything differently. I do not know. Would I have prayed that I had one more second to give? Yeah. Would I have done it? I don't know. But outside of that, outside of all of those things, we have community distress, horror for the family that has this now loss, horror for the officer, horror for the officer's family. We as public leaders, as civic leaders, we have our obligation to manage that situation. And it's not been managed well. And it's not because our chief of police has not been, he's doing the best he possibly can. Yeah. He is doing an amazing job under untenable circumstances. Yep. And I applaud him. He's doing everything he possibly can do. There's an obligation from city leadership to stand in that gap. Let's figure out what happened.
Agree.
Let's figure out the entire situation. This is not a time for the court of public opinion. It's too hot. It's too horrible. It's too awful to contemplate for the public. We need to bring in, let the state police do what the state police do the investigation, put out all the facts, and then we have a conversation about it. This is too awful. It's too horrible to contemplate. And it's horrible for the family. It's horrible for the family of police officers, horrible for police officers, horrible for the EPD. It's horrible for everyone involved. It's a tragedy. And that we have forgotten what that word actually means. Tragedy means it is heart-wrenching in a way that makes us sick. We throw that word around all the time, but it is meant to be heart-wrenching in a way that makes us sick.
My stomach turned over just since we started talking about it.
And that's exactly what this is. We need to respect this family who had a loss of a person that was important to them. We need to respect the officer who just
I haven't really heard anyone saying anything negative about the family or the situation.
That poor family, it's awful. It's awful for this family.
No one's really has talked about the history of the family or history of all the
Nor should they.
Nor should they, because the whole thing needs to be known and investigated, and like we need to have all the facts before we start.
This is a moment for grief, for the community to grieve over this person, for the family to be allowed space to grieve for this person, for the officer to try and recuperate, because heaven forbid something the grief over this moment that transformed his entire life into something different takes him to someplace. We do not need more tragedy to happen out of this horrible thing that occurred. And that's the truth. There's not one law enforcement official, not one. I challenge one to show up and say anything different. There's no one who wants this to happen to them. It is my worst possible moment that I, as a law enforcement official, or Noah, or Phil, or any of them, would have to take a life.
Yeah, I mean, I all I would say to you, just as what I would consider a friend now, and if you run for any office, I'm still going to hold you accountable as
You
if
should,
you're.
and I hope you do.
But you're in a role as a police officer, which why I thought bringing this conversation up was relevant, because you have insight, you have split second decisions that you have to make, and it pains me to think that I would want to say, Joe, I think you're going to be potentially much more valuable to the community in a role where you're helping to lead and bring transparency and accountability, whereas you could yourself be found stuck in the middle of a very similar situation. And that's very disheartening to me, because it means I am not helping to recruit intelligent, good people for the police department. But we have to use... for any police department, not just our local police department. Like, we need more people to want to do that job and be willing to do that job. And I guess the court of public opinion comes from politics, and no offense to the leaders of the local Democratic Party, they are terrible at self-policing. They're terrible at calling out bad behavior and whatever. And no one in the administration that I know of has been anywhere like calling for, let's reserve what we're saying about this thing until everything. It was just like, it happened. It was a couple-day event, and now it's gone. And I'm sure that's not what it is. But again, with no transparency, no communication, that's what it feels like. It feels like a huge vacuum that these families have now been dropped in the middle of. All the pain still going on for all those families. All the people.
It's horrific. It's horrific.
There's no win.
It's horrific in every family that's affected. This is a horrific moment, and
the worst moment of both families'
100%.
lives.
And there's a respect and an acknowledgement that's required here that we have forgotten as a society, and our city leadership should be called to account for that. There's a responsibility there, and we're not doing a good job. Our police department does things that nobody understands unless you've done it. This is something that I talk about very regularly. When I decided I was going to become an officer, I thought it was going to be one thing. And then when I became an officer, it became something very different. There are very few happy moments as a police officer. They are so few and far between. It is agonizing. These people have trauma as a result of the profession they've chosen.
PTSD is real.
It's 100% true. Yeah. They've been called to a thing that is hard and horrible. As a police officer, I've done two things. I've been a firefighter and I've been a police officer. Everybody loves firefighters. Pulling people out of the fire. You're a savior. You're doing amazing things. It's awesome.
Didn't have to shoot anybody today.
You don't shoot anybody. As a police officer, you never show up to somebody on their best day.
Yeah.
It's a terrible day every time you're there. Yep. It's an accident where there's horrific things that you can't unsee. It's horrible things are going on in a household. It's a crime in progress. It's something tragic that's going on. Something bad has happened as a police officer. That's the nature of the job. And when people tell me, well, that's the job you signed up for, it makes me want to lose my mind. You have no idea what the hell you're talking about. These people are there to save you. They're there to protect you. That is their calling. They are protectors. That is the best of us. And when you try and insinuate, and of course there's always someone that's not doing what they should be doing. There's always that anecdotal person.
There's a bad apple in every profession.
Oh, yeah. But for the most part, these people are protectors. They are in their DNA somewhere. Baked in is the desire to help everyone around them. And they go through a grueling process to even become an officer. And when they become an officer, they see and experience things that most people can't even conceive of. I could tell you stories that would make your hair curl. I promise you.
Again, my wife is a criminal defense attorney. So
you know some of these
when
things.
You say, yeah, I mean, I've heard way too many things.
It's a horrific experience to be. These people, the trauma that officers.
You can't prepare yourself for the worst situation. You can't prepare yourself for that moment.
No.
And if you had a bad day in some other way, how do you respond?
It's impossible.
In the most neutral, calm way.
It's not possible.
There's no way.
So every year we go through, we have X amount of hours we have to do in in-service training. I always put it off the last possible second. I'm terrible about it. So I'm recently going through this this
Too
week.
busy researching for podcasts.
Basically, that's basically my problem. Doing work with the governor and forgetting to do my in-service training. So I'm like rushing through all this stuff. So I'm seeing all these videos, all this in-service training, and it's not jarring to me anymore. I remember the first year I did it. I just had this conversation when I first saw these videos that you see and on the training that you go through. I was just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I see this. Now I'm just like,
Desensitized.
yeah. That's not a good thing.
No.
And I only do this part-time. The people who do this full-time, I've got a really good friend of mine who is a detective in the police force.
Is his name Billy Mack?
It is not.
He doesn't live in Texas.
He does not.
Okay.
This guy has the biggest heart.
I thought you'd like that one more, Travis.
This guy has a heart that you couldn't. You just can't measure the length and depth of it. It's amazing. And I've watched him go through health issues that the stress has caused. I've watched him cry over people who've had terrible things happen. I've watched him stand in the gap. I've watched him rush into active shooter situations without a body armor because he just wanted to protect people. That's who our police force is. That's who is standing in the gap for us every single day. And it's unacceptable. It's unacceptable that we don't protect them and support them every single chance we get. Those are the best of us. Our firefighters, our EMS, and our police force. Those three agencies are the very best of us. They represent the best of us.
Well, this is where we need a podcast with the chief and with the sheriff and with someone like you. I can be a neutral observer in the conversations that need to be had, just as sparking the right questions or having little things to insert. And these are the ongoing things that we
give me the time of date, I'll show up.
Well, I mean, I know that about you, and Noah has proven the same. He said, man, he said this was the fastest 3 hours that he's had in a very long time.
Yeah.
And I have invited Phil on multiple times to talk about some of the same things that we talked about, and for whatever reason that hasn't worked out. But absolutely want to put that together. And we really do need to wrap up at this point. But so what I want to tell you, we didn't talk about AI in any way capacity. And the rapid advancement, I did a lot of research.
He wants to tell you how upset he is about the research.
Furious.
I'd like to tell you that I created 10 songs.
Oh my goodness.
I sent you my pick.
Just personalized to you, Joe. And I'd like to tell you that I spent hours and hours and hours doing it, but literally it took 5 minutes maybe at that. Travis, because
I went through them all.
Because he's too busy to listen and to vote. What was your pick? And we're going to listen to some of one song. And now the only reason why I'm doing this is because I want people to know how AI is rapidly changing things and how technology is going to disrupt many things in our lives. Artists, musicians, attorneys, doctors, everything. Yeah. And this is another one of those conversations citywide that people are just oblivious and seemingly not paying any attention to, all the way from our education system to our public leaders. This is something, if you or anyone else that comes onto this program ends up running or becoming mayor, these are the conversations that we should be starting and having out of the gate. Like, we have to ignite these conversations, have a plan. Not to say that the plan, what is a plan for? A plan is just like getting you on a track that you can decide, well, that was stupid, that was wrong, that was stupid, that was wrong. But we're moving in a direction that we're at least trying to raise awareness to what's going on. So that long spiel is which is the song that you wanted to hear?
So it was close on a couple, but it was the Truth Bomb.
Drop the
Truth Bomb.
So I tried to take the two, and this one, I don't think this one aligns with what you sent me. You gave me an artist and a song, two artists and one song of your two favorite things that you were listening to right now, and I just tried to create a song based on the conversation that we were going to have and what we're trying to accomplish.
So was one of them Rage Against the Machine by any chance?
No, it's Beastie Boys.
Oh, okay, all right. Well,
but I was trying to figure it out. So this AI software that won't allow you to use the name of the artist, so you have to use a different piece of AI software to pin down the genre and give it to this AI software to, without saying Beastie Boys, describe Beastie Boys. So the prompt is trying to figure out how to get the style and the conversation and whatever.
Yeah, I got
so
you.
but I think the one that you picked might not even you'd be really close to that. So let's see if I can get this to play. This is the first time this is published and I haven't played it from this platform. Let's see if it works.
I'm showing your screen, by the way.
Well, thanks for the warning, Trav.
There's nothing on there.
Local warrior, expose the con, local sabotage. Let's go.
Not bad. Not bad.
Little Limp Bizkit, maybe?
CenterPoint surge got the bills on fire. Fire. IURC stamp while the politicians conspire.
Liars.
Cash flows to guards 24/7.
Just know I'm going to be making songs about you someday.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I love it so much.
While the streets forgot.
It's hilarious.
Disgrace. Data center sucking juice from the grid. Nuclear promises the families get slid. Water department, septic station scam. Your scam. Taxpayers bleed while insiders jam. Follow the gram. Local sabotage. They're sabotaging us all. Hidden hands in
Not
the
bad,
door.
not bad.
Transparency now. Make the corrupt crawl. Humanity's shield rising. Just leading the call. Local sabotage. We ain't gonna take it. Break the chains.
Your name is mentioned in here, by the way.
Listen, it is.
Yeah. Kids need real civics, money, nutrition, truth. Not indoctrination in the government booth. AI eating jobs, UBI change the skies. Migrants lost while the borders weaponized. Decentralized LLMs running free. Audit every dollar, that's the key. From Evansville streets to your town hall door. We see the sabotage sleeping no more. Wide awake war. Local sabotage. They're sabotaging us. Hidden hands in the door. Watch the curtain fall.
That's a good campaign song.
Make the corrupt crawl. Humanity's shield rising, just leading the call. Local sabotage. We ain't gonna take it. Break the chains tonight.
That's a good campaign song.
You feel it, Joe?
You feel it, Joe?
Quiet theft. Every rate hike. Every wasted check. They count on silence. They count on fear. All three. But warriors are
AI did all this?
Yep, all of it.
Wow.
local sabotage. No more. Local sabotage.
We're not going to need
Humanity's shield. Decentralized might. Joe lighting up the fight. No more sabotage. We own the night.
songwriters anymore.
No.
So the moral of this conversation is I love artists.
But do you hear where I thought it was maybe Rage?
Oh yeah.
I don't even know if I heard that one. I didn't listen to that one all the way through. I had two other
That was
favorites.
my favorite.
I had two other favorites, but I really like that one. So there's two other ones. You need to just listen to the long list that I created.
will definitely.
So there's one that does sound more like Billie Eilish, and I did like a mashup between Beastie Boys and Billie Eilish.
That has to be so weird.
So
I love it. I love it.
It's weird.
It was weird. That one, I didn't care necessarily for that one.
I know.
but
No. But when I called my wife in to let her hear some of these songs, she's like,
I liked Holiday Disruption number 2 as well.
okay.
That was the other one.
Well, we can listen to that if we want, but maybe not. So my wife is a very talented musician. She got a full ride scholarship to Arizona State University for vocal performance. Very music oriented. And when she heard 3 songs that I wrote in 3 minutes, and she heard it, she's like, are you protecting that? Is it something you're doing? So she went as the attorney. That it was so good that she felt like I could protect it in some way, copyright and all that stuff. I'm like, no. And by the time I went through all that, it would turn into somebody's going to make something so much better. And so what you said is the disruption and the joy that art and things that bring people. I have so much love. I know many artists, and they're unique in all ways, but it will be so disruptive.
100%.
And so again, we're not talking about it. this is a deep. We could all probably start crying if we just think about how it will change so many lives in a fun way. Like it was fun. It's fun to prompt something and create something like I actually created that, but I didn't. The AI software put in all the riffs. I didn't write a note of music. All I did was plug an idea into a large language model, and this is what it spits out at me.
Which is incredible.
So it's
incredible.
And it's going to get nothing but better. You know, I'd never heard a song that sounded like that
or worse.
Or worse.
Well, yeah. I thought you were the positive guy. So on to end the note, I tried to stop 30 minutes ago, but so what Eric? I did.
But he had to tell you how upset he was about the clips.
You guys might know the name Eric Schmidt. So he was a longtime CEO of Google.
Is he a Schmidt head?
Really intelligent guy. His name is spelled DT, so he's probably as smart like me. Yeah, right. So he went through this whole spiel, and I had a clip that you guys didn't let me share. But basically, at the end of it, he said, "What do we do when we create something that has multiple agents that can think on their own, speak a different language than us, and come up with outcomes that we can't understand?" His end for Eric Schmidt, the head of Google, was pull the plug. So I'm not trying to sway whether I agree or disagree with that in the moment. When you listen to something like this that became so easy, you're going to affect people, kind of like when our kids were locked down and separated from their friends. You create a ripple effect through time that you don't even know in the moment. It sounds like a good idea. It's fun, or it wasn't fun, but we did it because we felt like we had to. But the repercussions of it are unfathomable, and you can't even begin to think how they're going to ripple.
That's
so
true. Very true.
It's something, again, just conversations at the local level. We feel like we all need to sit back and wait on AI leaders and the people that are creating the things to help us and to protect us. But they're in it for one thing. They're trying to beat each other to the end pie, or some of them aren't even doing it for money. I don't think just me. I don't think Elon Musk is doing it for money. He's creating, I think, and I might have a terrible read on him. He is a tech bro. He was a PayPal mafia guy. He may very well be putting his money towards an evil end, but at the end of the day, he's like, if we don't do this and win this battle, the people that get to that most advanced model will win everything.
I would challenge your idea and say money is only good for the good that it can do.
Yeah.
I think that is exactly what he's thinking when he's doing these things. It's only good for the good that it can do.
Or he's sitting at his desk with a hairless cat going.
Both. Maybe both. Maybe
I don't
right?
think he sits sits around.
No, he doesn't sit still at all, except when he's sleeping for the 3 hours.
3 or 4. He admitted he has to sleep a little more than he used to, but
well, guys, thank you so much for this. This is awesome.
I appreciate it. And then every time I'm going to try to I'm going to work really hard to create a song for every episode, because I think it's just something for us to sit around and have fun, but also point out something that's very...
Watch YouTube try to stop it just because it was a song, even though it's your song.
Is this copyrighted? We're trying to find where this song has been played before. I just published it earlier today, so literally so when I publish it, it means it takes it from the software and puts it into a publicly found link.
Interesting.
Meaning anyone, including an algorithm, can... see it, sample it, test it. So literally, no one could steal it without me saying, "Well, I don't have a copyright, but I do have this is the service date. I put it out into the world for the first time." So I won't do that because that's not where I'm going. But at the end of the day, music does tie people together. It unites people. We can all listen to a song. He listens to Rush a lot. He pulls things.
He does.
He pushes things, pulls things out of him in a different way. I listen to Pearl Jam. He listens to a Pearl Jam song different than me, and it tugs at us at different ways. But and those differences are cool and real. Yeah. So I just I try to do anything that can unite people, and that's what we're doing. So anyway,
about this place.
Thanks again. You'll be invited back soon. I'm gonna try to organize.
He'll organize a bunch of clips that he won't use.
Yeah, I'm not doing any work before the next time I show up. I'm going to bring these old notes to the next thing and see how it goes. But thanks, Joe. Appreciate you always being available and open to come and having open conversations, and transparency and accountability is the future for us. As wherever we take Evansville, it's on us as individual citizens. And I appreciate your work and your passion.
Well, thank you so much,
Travis. As always, I appreciate you and the dedication and taking time away from your family only to be paid in bourbon. For now, we are looking for monthly contributors to the program, because I think we need 5 of these conversations going on right now every single day. And I don't care to be behind the camera or in a mic. I do enjoy it. Preparing, as much grief as I gave you guys about preparing for it, I actually enjoyed every second of preparing and listening to the videos and clips and how piecing together in my mind how they will fit together and the narrative that we're trying to create. So I was just giving you guys grief.
I will try next time to follow the script.
No.
No.
If
you have to be given a script to follow it.
Right. That's right. This might be one of my favorite podcasts so far. Again, just because it was
definitely the longest. We're at almost 4 hours.
Oh shit, we broke records, man. Well, I love you all. Thanks for tuning in. If you made it through 4 hours,
good luck.
I'll buy you a beer or bourbon, but not in dry January.
No, you gotta wait till February.
Yeah, that's right. Follow us, like us on any wherever you're seeing this or listening to this. Like the video, share with a friend. I'm going to be sharing clips as well, so we can get a little more digestible content for people. And once again, thanks to everyone. Thanks to you guys.
Okay.
See you next time.
Thanks, guys.
Happy New Year.